All right, welcome back everyone to Battle of the Best 2017. I'm Noxious, and with me is FADE2KARMA to cast the next series. We've got Team G2 versus F2K, which stands for FADE2KARMA. How are you doing, Falcon?
Yeah, I'm really good. I really enjoyed watching the last series. Was quite surprised in the way that it went after Mr. Yogurt's amazing start with the Warrior. I really thought complexity was going to kind of snowball from there, but no, just an exciting series, exactly what I like to see. And I hope that the series we get to cast now is just as good.
Yeah, we've got a lot of players that I think if you're watching tournaments very consistently, you might not know about in the event, as some of them are qualified. In this team, we've got J4ckiechan, which of course is everyone's favorite Joker, Senfglas, which has done a tremendous amount of work this expansion, especially, perfecting some of the Shaman list that we saw, some Miracle Rogue stuff, was really an amazing player as far as tweaking decks. And Alliestrasza, a streamer for F2K that we've seen, get into Legend repeatedly, but not much in terms of tournament presence. On the other side, G2 is going to be their nemesis, and G2, as we all know, is one of the best teams, if not the best team in the world right now, where these three players, that is, Thjis Lifecoach and RDU, all ranked within the top 10, and beyond that, whenever they've shown up for team tournaments, they've just torn it apart. Right now, if you look at the Trinity event for ESL, they're doing it. Again, they're just at the top of the line. Archon Team League, same thing happened. Personal performances, again, because of their team effort, they always have good results. So these guys are forced to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I have to admit, I think this is the game I've been looking forward to the most today because, as you were saying, G2, probably the best team in the world. Like, everybody loves G2, right? But at the same time, as you were in the last game, I've got to say, I'm a little bit biased towards FADE2KARMA. I'm ex-FADE2KARMA myself. I'm still a huge supporter of the team. I'm really good friends with all three of the guys that we're seeing. And I do kind of like to support an underdog a little bit. And anyone against G2 have got their work cut out for them today.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. Now, for the tournament, the players are, of course, in a best of 11 format. So each player will have 3 decks available to them. So they're all distributing the decks according to what they think is the best. And each player will have one of their decks banned. So everyone will get to play, technically, 2 decks at the very most, assuming they lose everything or win everything. It's going to be a very, very complicated series, because we see the very typical strategy on G2's side where they're stacking their classes very cleverly, where they're giving RDU Shaman, Warrior, and Rogue. And because the only player, you can only ban 1 class per player, RDU will get to keep 2 of these 3 classes. On F2K's side, the power classes that we know of Rogue, Shaman, and then Warrior are not all in the same class. In fact, Jackie is taking Rogue for himself. He's got Rogue, Druid, Mage, and Alliestrasza has Warrior, Shaman, and Warlock. So still the Warlock is in that lineup, but do you think that will favor G2 just a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting strategy. The amount of different things you can do in this format, I guess it's still quite new, and teams are still experimenting. But we heard Sho say in that interview that he kind of regrets the way that they spaced out the good classes. But, it paid off for them. So I'm really excited to see what happens with this game.
Yeah, so G2 opening up at the bottom here with Anyfin, Paladin. We've seen Thjis do some disgusting things with that deck. On the other side, we've got Dragon Priest from Senfglas. How do you feel about this matchup?
Well, I guess historically it's been Paladin favored, although at the moment, with how fast the Priest plays, and also the fact that if they want to, they have a very high chance of pulling out anything can happen from the opponent's deck with Operative. I don't know. I think I would lean it towards the Priest at the moment.
Okay, that's interesting. So if the Priest is really able to put on aggression, I mean, that tends to increase their win rate. But again, historically, very Paladin-favored matchup. I'm not sure at the moment what the standing would be. I would probably put the ball in the Paladin's camp, as you mentioned. But if Priest is really that quick at getting the board together, then that's a big deal. One of the key things, too, for the Priest player is the potential reverse kill, where you steal anything can happen with a Draconic Operative, and then get to use their Murlocs against them.
See, that's the thing, right? And also, it kind of comes down to when the Paladin get to use their board clears. Like, can Doomsayer come down when there isn't a Shadow Word Pain to deal with it? If Doomsayer procs, the Paladin then gets Solemn Vigil and starts really steamrolling through the deck. But Operative has such a high chance of pulling the Anything Can Happen now. Thjis does not have either of the Anything Can Happens in his hand, so already alarm bells are ringing, right? Because the longer it takes him to draw them, the more likely the Priest is to actually pick them up.
Yeah, Thjis does find a good Murloc in the Finja here, as it usually against Priest is able to snipe off a kill, finishing off a minion that was damaged by True Silver or chipped away at this health pool by 1-1. So oftentimes Finja finds a lot of value in the matchup, as it is also, incidentally, stealthed and thus immune to Bookworm and Shadow Word Pain.
Yeah, that's definitely awkward for Priest. Obviously, once it's unstealthed, it doesn't really matter anymore to the Paladin because it's had its hit. It's probably killed something and probably summoned a board full of Murlocs. It's weak to Dragonfire Potion, but do you really want to use Dragonfire Potion on the one minion? Well, sometimes yes, I guess you do.
Yeah, depending on your own board, because there are Blackwing Technicians, Warmist Agents. Some minions in the Dragon Priest deck are not dragons, but if you have only dragons and you're looking at this from the perspective of, hey, if this thing gets his combo out earlier, I'm going to be in a bad spot, then I think, yes, there's a lot of merit to making sure that Finja dies. It's kind of like the Sylvanas coin power overwhelming we saw in the previous match, where stealing Finja was a priority of the Reno lock to make sure that they won the combo race.
Because Finja is just so strong at speeding the Paladin up. The fact that you can just grab 2 extra Murlocs immediately just brings them so much closer to their win condition. It's a pretty terrifying prospect for their opponent.
Yeah. So Thjis here running right up into Shadow Word Pain. There was no good follow-up for FADE2KARMA in that spot if they were to be not playing the Quiet Guardian. They had the option of going coin Quiet Guardian. Doomsayer comes down, prevents that. They, however, pick up a second Warmist Agent off the top to curve out on turn 3. And then they have a turn 4, they have a turn 5. FADE2KARMA is looking like they're getting exactly what they want out of a Dragon Priest against an Anything Can Happen Pally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't see Equality or Consecration or Wild Pyromancer in Thjis' deck. And eventually he's going to want some combo of 2 of those cards. It's going to take him a little while to get them, though, unless he can drop the Acolyte soon and maybe get at least 2 cards from it.
Yeah, I think I like the Acolyte of Pain a lot in this spot, as the alternatives usually are just trying to achieve board control and maybe not bring you back into the game. And the Acolyte combined with a 1/1 that might, happen to hit, lets you play Finja, and you can use the War Leader to buff the Finja to kill something to then get even more value. But off the top, another card comes out for FADE2KARMA that they might opt to play to deny the card draw.
That's got to be so tempting. Like, the power of denying card draw is something that I feel like is even stronger recently in the meta against all of the Reno decks, but also against Paladin, where there's such a, I guess, kind of a combo-oriented deck. The point being, it's really important that they do get these cards to win the game. It's not like he can win without clearing the board or win without picking up Anything Can Happen. It just seems like a pretty strong play right now to me. I like the Pain a lot.
Yeah, it's actually come down at the exact right time, too, for FADE2KARMA, because they were looking at this like, okay, so you're telling me this Paladin's getting at least 2 cards out of this 1/3. We don't have Corruptor for the following turn. We're a little bit late, and the best we can do is just put more onto the board against a Paladin with potential board clears. In this spot, we get to deny the draw, lower the chances of him, just getting a full board clear, and incidentally, we're also not developing too much, such that if there's an AoE and he feels threatened to do it, he doesn't get more value out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the alternative, isn't it? It's you keep extending, and if Thjis is holding on to Equality Pyromancer, then you just lose even more minions. Thjis has now picked up the Equality, despite losing the Acolyte of Pain, which is great. If he can pick up Pyromancer or Consecration in the next few turns, he may have a chance at claiming this board back and getting back into the game. But at the moment, Senfglas is really applying the pressure.
Yeah, very good board state, though, for Thjis next turn. He's going to get the War Leader, that is, to kill one of the minions onto the board, which means suddenly Bluegill, potentially 2 of them, might come out buffed by War Leader. That's a possibility. Or another War Leader comes out with at least 1 Bluegill. Regardless of what happens, there's at least an extra Bluegill warrior coming out of the deck.
Yeah, so Thjis is almost going to have used up all of his Murlocs very, very soon. And Senfglas doesn't have any way of stopping him. He's 1 turn early to play Dragonfire Potion. And even if he could play Dragonfire Potion, would he want to with these Wormist Agents on the board?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. One of the key cards, too, for Paladin that wasn't found yet is the True Silver Champion, which, although that card has been, it's a weapon, so of course it's good, but against Priest it's especially good because you're denying high health minions. The Priest doesn't usually play too much in terms of weapon hate in their deck, so you can snipe off their tempo very easily and then transition into your own slower game plan very simply. So,
well, here we go. It's this combination of cards is about to ruin Senfglas' day.
Oh man, this is gonna hurt. If it's 2 Bluegills, it's gonna feel even worse, but... just the one. You know, just a 6-3.
It's not quite as bad, and now the fact that Senfglas does have Dragonfire Potion ready to go is going to be huge, especially as the 2 minions he's going to have left after this turn are both dragons. So his board survives, he completely flips the tempo around. The problem is, of course, that Thjis has just killed off 4 of his Murlocs, and he does have anything can happen sitting there. So in a few turns, things are going to turn very bad for Senfglas.
Yeah, Senfglas is just looking at this like, okay, so I go face, I Dragonfire, then what? Right? I got another taunt in the way. I can play the Twilight Guardian, I can buff it. We haven't seen equality yet. We haven't seen, you know, there's some stuff we haven't seen yet, but overall, yeah, I think Senfglas is looking pretty sweet. That Dragonfire Potion coming back in the metagame, full force.
Yeah, it's become a duo in so many different builds recently. Whereas back at the start of the expansion, I remember a lot of players weren't even running 1, and if they were running 1, it was just 1. You very rarely saw 2.
Yeah. I wonder if the rise of mid-range, you know, mid-range Shaman with Jade is a thing.
Yeah.
We have the Miracle Rogue, which of course you want to snipe with Dragonfire Potion, and at the other end of the spectrum, anything can happen, come up, so that's another one of those decks you're happy to have that against. Maybe that's what makes the most sense.
Especially though when it comes to Shaman. I mean, Shaman and Warrior just dominate generally. Shaman have the 2 different builds, which are both dominating at the moment. And Dragonfire Potion isn't terrible against either of them. Yeah, it's pretty slow against aggro, but it's still, it's not horrible. Like, you tend to get to turn 6 eventually, most of the time. It just does seem like a strong medical at the moment. Thjis attempting his second Doomsday here, but Senfglas does have Bookworm in hand.
Yeah, they've picked up every single Shadow Word Pain effect in their deck at this point. Unless there's another Bookworm for the total 4 of them, which there could be if you're expecting Shaman to be around. But yeah, this is something very unusual. Finding all these in the top, 15 cards? Not even that, maybe 13 that he's drawn so far this game. Right. That's a lot of Shadow Word Pains.
And it's exactly what Senfglas wants as well. I mean, Senfglas is quite popular recently for his gameplay with the Anything Paladin deck. We've seen that actually Senfglas's Paladin has been banned, and that's no surprise because it's a deck that he's very, very strong with. And that leads me to believe that he's probably very good at knowing exactly what to play around as well. He's got to be good against playing he's got to be good against the deck as well as playing it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's kind of an awkward situation here for Thjis. The self-heal is worth a lot on the Ragnaros. Is the safest way to play this, because you're worried, of course, about the Blackwing Corruptor coming up, simply killing you if you think it's too slow.
On the flip side, Thjis hasn't... I'm pretty sure Thjis hasn't seen a Shadow Word Death yet. So the chances of Senfglas having one of those is really high, and he doesn't want to get punished by that, although it does seem to be the only play at the moment that he can possibly make. So here it is. And luckily for him, there is no death in Senfglas's hand, at least not yet.
Yeah, would it be fair if he had, 2 pains, 1 Bookworm, and that's the question that needs to be asked. This 8/8 is representing a ton of pressure right now because Senfglas wants to address it as it puts him very far away from any lethal, but there's no clean way to do it yet.
He might still pick up the death right now.
Oh my god!
Oh my goodness!
Well, that's the card Senfglas wanted to pick up. FADE2KARMA is going to be rejoicing here. If I could see Jackie Chan's face, I'm sure he'd just be smirking, a large smirk.
Oh, I'm looking at Senfglas right now. He looked pretty happy there when the death was picked up, though he's still deep in concentration. He by no means thinks this game's over yet. Looks like Operative is the only choice that he can make here. Is that... Yeah, okay. It looked for a moment like he wasn't going to go with the death.
I mean, I guess there's a world in which you're happy to take it slow, but I don't think you want to give the Paladin time at all. You've seen already 3 Murlocs dying. So even if you can win taking it slow, it's probably not the most appealing prospect.
And very soon, well, when Thjis is ready, he can trade in that final Murloc as well, the Bluegill Warrior. Though it looks like this is probably a Ragnar's turn.
I don't know. Equality kills a minion with Bluegill Warrior, and you can play Aldor Hero Power on top of it to develop minions that both kill what's on the board, right? Since they're all 1 health. And Aldor can test those very nicely, so then you get to streak into anything to control the board.
Yeah, that's actually very true. Like the urge to play Bluegill Warrior just for that very reason must be pretty strong here. Thjis isn't in the position where Blackwing Corruptor kills him right now. Earlier on, you were saying like 1 Blackwing Corruptor and it's game over, but He can afford to play it a little bit more risky, maybe drop the Ragnaros, but no, he likes your play a lot. Bluegill Warrior out of Peacekeeper into anything can happen next turn. It's not going to be lethal just yet, though. Thjis still has a long way to go.
Give you, at this point, 2 Bluegills, a Finja, and 2 War Leaders, which means you have 2 5/4s on the board, and you end up with a 6/5 from the a 6/6 Finja, as well as 2 Bluegills that are buffed up to 6/3s. So still a substantial board to handle without a Azure Drake, Holy Nova, or a second Dragonfire Potion.
Now, Senfglas has a pretty interesting decision to make here. Because I think it's a question of which 5-drop do you play? Because you could play the Corrupted to take more of the board, or he could go for the Operative, not quite get the option for anything can happen, unfortunately, but Tyrion's pretty good. In fact, all of these cards are looking strong to me.
I mean, Consecration right now could be played and simply clean up the board, and you go face for 3 more damage. So there's, even if he plays any Finn on turn 10, right? At best, he's attacking with 2 minions.
Yeah,
because there's only 2 Bluegills, so you lose the 5/6, you lose the Azure Drake, you're still left with 2 damage. So he gets to push 6 now, you have at least 2 next turn. So you're 3 off lethal. The question is, can you find the extra 4? Because you've only got the Corruptor, and without Brand, that's not enough. Without a Holy Nova from the top, that's not enough. So you're very short of lethal with Consec. I would be considering it.
Yeah, well, he went for it. I guess Ivory Knight was just a little bit too slow. I was trying to think of the possibilities, like what can you get from that? Could get Dragonfire Potion, but that's 2 turns later at this stage, because there was no mana to play Ivory Knight then, and then he'd have had to play that next turn, Dragonfire Potion the turn after. Consecration seems strong, but here come the Murlocs, and Thjis just going to clean up the board nice and carefully.
Yeah, and that's going to be it. The 2 damage left over from the board for F2K with the Blackwing Corruptor in hand is going to clean up this game in their favor, as they realize very quickly that, what's the worst case scenario after this Operative? Oh, well, the worst case scenario is any Finn. What does that kill? Well, just enough for us to get the win anyway. So, very good setup by F2K. They found the answers, and unfortunately for G2, no 6-0 on the back of Paladin this time around.
I mean, this is Hearthstone, isn't it? I can imagine Thjis is probably a little bit frustrating about what you said. How it's quite unfair, isn't it? Both Shadowword Pains, Bookworm, Shadowword Death exactly when FADE2KARMA needed it. But that is just how Hearthstone goes sometimes. And I'm sure that Senfglas is pretty happy about that win.
Yeah. So we have the bans in that came up. G2 banned Paladin, Rogue, and Shaman from this side. So G2 apparently respects anything can happen a whole lot more than I had anticipated. So the anything can happen Paladin deck is worthy of a ban in their mind.
I have a feeling that's just because of who's piloting it. As I mentioned earlier, like Senfglas, I think it's Senfglas and Mr. Yaga are 2 of the players that have been most well known for refining anything can happen recently. So Senfglas really knows that deck, and G2 probably respected that.
Yeah, and on the other side, G2 cannot play Shaman, Warlock, nor Mage. Again, they stacked their odds. They put every single power deck on RDU's side, such that Shaman, Rogue, and Warrior are all in the same player, and the only class that was banned from these 3 decks is the Shaman. So Warlock and Mage are good contenders as 4th and 5th decks in the metagame, I'd say. In some people's estimate, it's actually slightly ahead to play a Warlock deck than something else. So everything is very close, though, win rate-wise. Like, aside from Shaman that just seems to race ahead alongside Rogue, the metagame seems very healthy in terms of win rates.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just looking at the previous series, I'm expecting to see some pretty crazy things from the Warrior. I was surprised that Shaman didn't go completely nuts in the last set of games. It was actually Warrior and Reno Lock that performed best. So we're going to see a lot of both of those decks. Obviously, G2's Warlock has been banned, but we are going to see Warlock from Alliestrasza a little bit later. We're going to see Warrior from both players.
Do you anticipate there to be a combo in F2K's Warlock as well?
It's really hard to tell, because you'd expect in this format combo to be better, because you can kind of try and target exactly what you're matching up against a little bit better. Whereas on ladder, it's a little bit risky to take combo. If you get the bad matchups, you end up in a worse spot. So I would assume yes, just because I feel like it's what you'd expect in tournaments. That being said, Jackie popularized an interesting Reno Lock without combo, and I think it ran Sogoth the Slitherer and a few other interesting cards like that. And FADE2KARMA do like j4ckiechan's deck, so we could be seeing that instead.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. The issue is, again, like, for instance, the current matchup, there's a priest facing them from F2K. I think this is a great time to just bring out Warlock. And whether or not you're playing the combo version or not is probably not a big deal. It's a war of attrition, and it's a matter of just grinding out the game to the point where you either kill them through board control or you kill them through a simple OTK. So I think Warlock would be a good pick here. So we might be able to see G2's Warlock come into action. That'd be nice.
Is Warlock not banned? I think G2's Warlock is banned.
Oh yeah, F2K. Sorry, he's got the Warlock.
Yeah.
Warlock was banned. My bad.
You're right. Like Warlock would have been a great.
Whoa! Wait a minute, Nox. Yeah, sorry, we're talking about flipping the roles here. So G2's got no like deck that beats Priest consistently, aside from maybe Rogue that they're very happy with, or Aggro Warrior. So RDU is probably coming out.
Yeah,
I
think
be
Rogue
surprised if RDU
seems.
did.
Yeah, I think Rogue seems like a pretty good call. RDU is, in particular, very, very good with these miracle Rogue turns. We've seen some amazing things in the past on these Gadgetzan turns where he's done everything in such a calculated way. And looking at G2's lineup, as you said, there isn't much that beats Priest, but Rogue is one of these decks that consistently does.
Yeah.
If the Rogue were to lose against the Priest, G2 might be in a tough spot already.
I mean, I guess you could bring out the Druid as well if you feel comfortable with that. The issue is, of course, if the Priest starts off strong, it's very difficult to push them off a board as Druid.
Yeah.
But you could still get the long-term win with Jade. You could go for the mirror match if you're life coach and you feel like you've got an edge in the Dragon Priest mirror, which often tends to go, very much about the early game complete leads where you just, I have a 1-drop and a 2-drop and a 3-drop and you don't. The snowball is very quick.
What I find really interesting about this format is typically in last hero standing, I feel as though, so player A wins game 1, and then player B counters that and wins game 2, and then player 1 counters that and wins game 3, and you tend to get a back and forth type thing, but that's not what we've seen at all in the first series that you and Lorinda casted. So I'm just wondering how, when you have every single class in play, how that kind of affects that. I guess it's actually more difficult to know what counters what, especially when you bring Hunter onto the table.
Yeah, I think the counters are still very much obvious for a lot of those players, but the big question is always of what's going to be banned, right? So you might bring a lineup that's trying to counter something specific, but ultimately you have to make assumptions about what your bans are going to be. So maybe G2 went in and said, all right, so if we stack RDU, then we lose Shaman, and then we lose Warlock and Mage, and that's fine, because we know we have a strategy going forward with the ban phase.
And what do you know? RDU is bringing his Rogue, as you correctly guessed, because it's just the most solid matchup. It's the best counter. RDU probably not gonna want to be going for a huge Edwin Van Cleef here, just in case there's a Shadow of Death on the horizon. But this looks like a pretty strong opening hand, in my opinion.
Yeah, FADE2KARMA at least picks up a 1-drop to counter some of the patches shenanigans that can occur. If that hadn't been there, I would not have been surprised to see RDU just go small time Buccaneer, go coin, cold blood on patches, go face.
Yeah.
Happen beneath the grounds as Reno Tech. What a beautiful day to be alive.
Now, it's a card that I haven't seen that often being played, but when it does hit the Reno, it hits really hard. Unfortunately, this obviously isn't the matchup that's been teched in for. Senfglas' Priest definitely is not a Reno Priest. So RDU really needs to hope that this deck wins this game and kind of survives long enough to play against a Reno deck so that this pulls off.
Yeah, and there's a really good chance that it survives too. Now, here's an interesting spot because RDU on one hand wants to play his pirates and everything, but Rogue is one of the classes that's best at holding on to the pirate package to wait a little bit longer before pulling the trigger. Say you equip a weapon first, then you play your minions so that the Northshire Cleric doesn't get any value.
Yeah. It's he's actually not going to do it. He's going to go ahead and play Small Time Buccaneer. I guess there is the risk of drawing patches, something that RDU doesn't want to do at any cost. So he is going to essentially feed this Northshire Cleric.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing about Beneath the Grounds, specifically in this matchup, is that they are all 4/4 minions, right, when they get played. So actually particularly strong against the Priest, unless the Priest has Dragonfire Potion.
Right. Well, even then, right, it's just a matter of how much of the range of the metagame you think you're targeting. And in this case, we're talking about 2 decks. The Rogue with Beneath the Grounds targets 2 decks, and it already does beat Priest by default. So this is just like a win more against Priest when it hits, which is beautiful. This is an interesting opener because right now, FADE2KARMA just doesn't want to play you know, a heal on the Northshire, which is what RDU knew, right? He full well knew that when he played the small time, patches goes face, and then F2K either plays a minion or tries to heal the Northshire. If they heal the Northshire, he just daggers up and finishes it off, and he's very, very happy about it.
Oh, hold on a moment.
Whoa.
What is that card?
I'm gonna stop you right there, but that's Inner Fire Dragon Priest.
Now, there have been some interesting decks floating around recently with Potion of Madness and Genie and Inner Fire for OTKs. Now, we didn't see any of these cards whatsoever in the previous game, so I doubt that Senfglas is running the full package, but this is definitely interesting.
Yeah, one of the things this does is give Dragon Priest some finishing power, especially if he's running at the top end, you know, in Ysera, or if he gets it from Historian. That's the type of stuff that you can often win with.
Sure.
But even just turning a 3/8 into a big minion, or you get a Warmest Agent, and you don't have a dragon in hand. It's a 1/4 because of 4/4. You've salvaged a bad minion.
Or even a 5/5 Twilight Warp on turn 3, which could actually be a thing that happens this game.
Yeah, it's kind of scary if you're RD and you have that info. But one of the things it also doesn't do is anything if the opponent's able to just stay on the board and ahead of you a little bit. So it's always a bit scary to have a card like this in your deck because it assumes some form of board control and a lack of answers.
But this is very clearly a rogue. This is very much a tech that leads to a one-turn kill. So like with RDU's Beneath the Grounds tech, this could be in there to help in the matchup against Reno decks.
Yeah, I mean, if they play Divine Spirit especially, right? We haven't seen the card yet. It's very hard to figure out whether or not it's even in there in the first place. But it's the type of card that would make a lot of sense in Dragon decks, especially if he's topping off at like Twilight Drake too.
Even the Cabal Talon Priest, though, is so strong with Inner Rage because it buffs a minion by 3 health and then gives it the attack. And hold on a moment, what? Oh, okay, he's faking the Shadow Word Pain? Is that what that is?
I think that's exactly what they did, and they're laughing about it, like, oh, RDU thinks we have pain now, and we made a mistake revealing it. Oh, the memes. G2's like, I totally know what's going on here. You're gonna outthink yourself, my friend.
That's definitely a strategy when it comes to these tournaments with players like RDU and Lifecoach and Thjis, who are some of the best players in the world, because you're right, they will think that Shadow Word Pain. Of course they will. And whereas a lesser player probably wouldn't even think about it, they are now going to be playing around the wrong card.
What a joke. What a genius move that was by FADE2KARMA. I'm sure Jackie Chan was like, fake the pain. And Sam was like, yeah, oh yeah, we should do that.
Yeah.
That would totally make them misplay.
That's probably exactly how that conversation went. Shifting shade from the Swashbuckler there, this is going to become quite an interesting game with the players stealing each other's cards by the look of it.
Yeah, the best part is if he ends up getting the Draconic Operative off of the Shifting Shade and picks up an Azure Drake, and then it never stops.
Are you playing around Shadow Word Pain there by buffing up the Swashbuckler out of range?
I think what he wants to do, which is kind of cool, like to be more, to be less facetious about the play, is force a Shadow Word Death.
Yeah.
Such that Twilight Guardian does not, Twilight Guardian dies next turn if it's played. It's a 3/6, it dies to the 5/1 and the dagger hit. And better yet, if a death is played on this mediocre value, then you get the Shade uncontested on the following turn, and then you get to reevaluate your plays with the 2 next draws you have.
I must consider.
So kind of an interesting spot.
This is an interesting decision for Senfglas here because, I mean, as you were saying earlier, Inner Fire is a card that works so well with Ysera, but against a rogue, can you ever expect to live that long? I feel as though Bookworm might have to be the choice here. Oh, he's going to go Draconic Crusher, okay.
So the reason Bookworm is not a card I'd be excited to play in that spot is because you already have, like, you don't really have much in terms of targets in the deck, right? Like, Questing as a 2/2 is not going to come out.
That's true.
Edwin's not going to come out. Gadget Sand, Tomb Pillager, like, all these cards that we know of, likely not cards that you'd expect. And they saw the Inner Fire, and that resets the Cold Blood, and suddenly RDU...
Anti-Cold Blood, new 1-mana priest card.
This is so cool. Should have just played Holy Smite. A lot easier.
Yeah, that would have had a better effect as well, you're right.
Yeah, but I like the potential of the card. I think Inner Fire is underrated for Dragon Priest. It's kind of like Confuse. We've seen Dragon Priest experiment with Confuse.
Sure.
But they realized very quickly that because it affects everything, that's what makes it bad.
Yeah,
Or it makes it difficult to work. Whereas if you have inner fire, you can just spot target stuff, which is great.
It's just that little bit better, isn't it? Second operative coming down here for Senfglas, and well, given that he has a handful of minions, preparation doesn't seem like a useful card right now. He already has 2 Drakes. He's going to take preparation.
Oh no, I think it's the first operative he played, right?
Oh yeah, of course. The first discover I'm thinking of was Nether Spy Historian.
And now we'll see what that shifting shade's gonna yield.
Yeah, and this is a pretty nice turn for RDU as well, being able to use the SS7 agent to clean up this operative.
Yeah, kind of a dry hand though, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but Powered Shield is probably one of the best cards that RDU could possibly pick up from Senfglas's deck, with the synergy with Gadget and Auctioneer, Questing Adventurer, and Edwin Van Cleef. I mean, this is almost as good as Counterfeit Coin, right?
So there's this weird universe in which RDU just goes Counterfeit Coin SI, prep Powered Shield, and hopes to get Edwin.
This guy's toast.
Oh, wow. That's
I don't think that's ever a thing. 'Cause I think Beneath the Grounds is just strictly better.
Yeah, I like this a lot here. I mean, your play was incredible if you pulled it off, right?
No, that's... Sure, let's go. Let's go, RDU. Throw the game. I want to see you pitch that game as far away from you as you can.
If only he could then conceal it as well.
Sure. Oh, Bookworm comes in handy.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. The second Bookworm would not have done anything. Crusher makes much more sense from that. Another Spy Historian, but RDU's hand is looking so awkward now. Is this one of those turns where you have to Powered Shield one of your opponent's minions just to dig through your deck?
Yeah, I think you're at the point where it's a Gadatan or Bust type hand.
Yeah.
Where you're looking to cycle all the cards you can possibly do. And Powered Shield is step 1 towards that. So I'd say so. So have you ever seen a rogue beat itself to death with its own cards?
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? With especially in this type of matchup, you can end up in a position where you don't draw Gadget and Auctioneer, and as a result, you just can't draw through your deck and you can't win the game. And the problem is, the later it gets, the more likely Senfglas is to pick up Dragonfire Potion to have an answer for the Auctioneer. This is a very high-pressure game for RDU as well, because this is his best matchup versus Priest.
Yeah,
is there a world where G2 just can't beat the Priest?
With any of their decks?
Yeah.
I'd be surprised. I mean, the Warrior has a really good shot at it, but it could happen. We've seen, Dragon Priest just get nuts openers every single game, and they just do it. And they wouldn't necessarily be a deck that I would qualify as a deck to sweep people in last year's standing, but they're capable of doing some really disgusting things when they get the curve game after game.
Right. Like, the thing is, they've had these amazing starts in 2 matchups, which, well, I mean, this is definitely an unfavored matchup for the Priest. The last one, debatably, yeah, it could be an unfavored matchup for the Priest. And Senfglas has pulled it off so far. If he can continue to do this well against the unfavored matchups, then the favored ones are just going to be even better.
This is really tricky.
Yeah, second Cold Blood, not helpful at all for RDU. Meanwhile, Senfglas has a hand literally full of cards that he can play right now if he wants to.
Yeah, it's still like, I think the matchup isn't as bad as, say, in the Worlds of Control Priest back when...
Right.
I think it's still like 55-45, probably 60-40 at the top, like when people are really good at Rogue, like 65-35 maybe if we get crazy. But there's enough minions on the Priest side that, as you mentioned, it's really difficult sometimes for the Rogue to just keep track of all of them, because they all have very high health. And it's not that Rogue can't kill minions, it's that if it kills minions, it doesn't kill them. Yeah. You have to. There's a trade-off where you have to push damage with only so many tools like Eviscerate and Cold Blood, and reusing those as removal oftentimes isn't, an option. So that's the reason why you've seen more and more of the questing and Edwin wins in tournaments, where people just have to commit everything because they know there's not a second round.
That's the thing, right? Like, they're able to use all of their burn spells like Eviscerate on their opponent's minions while buffing up the Questing Adventurer, so that it's not wasted damage, it's just buffing up the questing to use later. Tomb Pillager, another unhelpful card for RDU right now. He's just going to play it, pick up the extra coin, and really hope that he gets the Gadgets and Auctioneer next turn.
How often do you just... I think if I'm Senfglas, I'm just ignoring this guy, and I'm playing Azure Drake and probably the Talon Priest and just pushing all the damage I can. The faster this game ends, if I'm the Dragon Priest, the more happy I am.
Yeah.
And I can't just give him a coin, so...
No, I think you're right. There's actually very little point in clearing up the Tomb Pillager. Even if he had a Shadow Word Death, like, this isn't really the target you want to use in it. You kind of want to hold on to that kind of thing for if there is a random Edwin Van Cleef appearing in the next few turns. But things are just looking so good for Senfglas now. Okay, so he's going to use the Corruptor, so he's not trading in anything important.
That's reasonable. I mean, you're keeping your most important minions anyway off the board. I think all the options are acceptable. I mean, in the worst case scenario, let's assume something crazy burst-wise, like Leroy, second Cold Blood, double Abyss. Like, let's go nuts, right? We just put every card that they have. That's still not lethal, so we're assuming that the only way the Rogue would have won is if Gadatan came up and a lot of removal tools were there, and the Tomb Pillager somehow lived at the end of the day. You know, Gadatan, Backstab, Abyss, Prep Sap, and then a Gadatan lives. Something ridiculous like that.
RDU is willing to call it a day, and that's not a great start for G2, it has to be said.
Yeah, I mean, one of the power classes in Rogue ended up falling to one of its favorite matchups, the Priest. They love to eat Priest alive. They've done that since the dawn of time, but unfortunately, that is not what happened here. Now, Warrior is still a class that they're happy to queue up into this, I imagine. They lost a Reno lock, so...
It's probably the class that makes the most sense. I mean, we're assuming that it's Pirate Warrior. I mean, I was just watching Lifecoach's stream earlier today, and he was practicing that Pirate Warrior, as Lifecoach does. He wants to try and become as perfect as he can in every deck. And given that that's the deck of choice for today, is that a hint that that's what he's playing in this tournament?
I'd say so. I mean, worst case scenario, you know, if it's a Dragon Warrior, it still has an edge, right? It still has like a very good matchup against the Dragon Priest. So that would be a good deck to bring. The only case where it goes wrong is if it is a Control Warrior for whatever reason that they chose to bring for novelty's sake. And Thjis with the J Druid is also able to muster some decent win rate against the Priest. I wouldn't. It's not amazing. I'd rather not be the J Druid in that spot, as it's probably favored for the Priest. But you know, it's a deck that can win.
I agree. I think that the Jade Druid is funnily enough one of the slower decks. Sure, when it builds up the Jades, when they get big enough, it's great. But Priest is just a faster deck than Druid now. It's not something I thought I'd be saying 6 months ago, but that's just how the cards are right now. There is something to be said for bringing these slightly off-meta decks like Control Warrior, but I guess in a format like this, once you've revealed the deck, that's it. If you win, that's great, but then in the next series they know what to expect, and it's going to be a trickier game. So I guess just bringing the better decks makes more sense, which is why I'd expect Pirate. That seems to be the favorite at the moment. Yeah,
and also Control Warrior is just horribly positioned even in that matchup. So if they have it, I don't think they'd want to queue it up. It's such a terrible matchup for Control Warrior. The amount of value you have to go through. Weapons are they're technically good, but a 3-attack weapon against a 4-health minion, not so amazing all of a sudden.
Right.
And things get a bit tricky. So I'd expect Pirate Warrior to come out right now. Maybe a mirror match from Dragon Priest if the Warrior is not comfortable for RDU and they want to queue it up against something else for sure.
Sure. So it's not like all is lost for G2 just yet. Is there any world where Lifecoach has decides to bring his Hunter and we try and kind of counter the Priest with a mid-rangey secret? I guess it'd be Secret Hunter realistically.
I mean, I don't think you ever... I mean, I'm pretty sure that's got to be one of the most lopsided matchups in the metagame right now. And like, you know, how there are very few, 60-40s or 65-35s. I'm pretty sure Hunter against Priest is so lopsided in the favor of Priest. It's pretty nasty, because one of the things you want to be doing as Hunter is just develop those crazy secret turns. And Priest doesn't really care about losing health or being behind on tempo because they have so many replacements. It used to be the case that if you had a minion on the board as Priest, oftentimes that was the only minion you were going to play for a while. Yeah. Nowadays, you have something else. You have another 2-drop, you have a 3-drop, you have follow-up, you have replacements for the stuff that you lose. And cards like Freezing Trap against Netherspite Historian, not great. If you got Holy Nova coming up, not so great either.
I mean, against any of the Priest's cards, right? There's so many battle cries in that deck. Drake, the Blackwing Corruptor, Operative. There's just so many of them.
They play a 5/6 on 5. You play High Main on 6.
Yeah.
Right? It used to be that there wasn't the possibility for you to lose out on that fight on turn 6, but now it happens. The 5-6 is just so dangerous. It kills everything you play up until that point. Doesn't die to kill command, so you can't keep tempo if you have it. And it gets a trade on the high main, which lets them set up a removal turn with Bookworm to kill one of the hyenas, or just to get a Holy Nova. Everything is bad for Hunter in the matchup at that point.
So we've just been through every single matchup that G2 can pick next, and it looks like their only options are Warrior and Priest. If they want to go for the 50-50, or if they want to take Warrior, you still think Warrior is the best shot, the best call here?
I think it's their best call, but one of the things we have to keep in mind is what they want to keep the Warrior for. If they want to target something very specific in F2K's lineup, then that might be a consideration, right? Where you just don't want to throw the Warrior away to win now, and then they queue their counter Warrior deck, and suddenly you find yourself without much of a choice. But
there it is.
Without further ado, we're gonna get into that Pirate Warrior matchup. RDU behind the wheel with his teammates.
So this is a pretty awkward start for both players, actually, pre-Mulligan. I can't see a single card that either of them would want to keep.
Heroic Strike is useful as removal, but it's not the prime. Like, you'd rather just get a Fiery War Axe. Upgrade is pretty sweet when you have a hook. It can be an emergency weapon just to guarantee something in small time, but yeah.
So I guess you could argue that the RDU might keep one upgrade.
I think if you keep one, you might keep everything, but it's not really worth it.
And
it's down to getting
keeping
pirates for the most part. Yeah.
And now this is not a bad hand for RDU after all, though. He's got the first mate. He's got South Sea deckhand. No patches in hand, which is always a plus.
Yeah, I kind of like the position that the hand that RDU has. The South Sea Captain is really good with patches because you can oftentimes on the coin, especially on the coin, this is important. Guarantee that if you have a one-drop pirate, you then get a streak of 2/2s potentially. So
this is very... the thing that's awkward for RDU right now is Senfglas's incredible hand here. We've got 1-drop into 2-drop into 3-drop into 4-drop if Senfglas gets a second dragon, which by then you'd expect him to. And the fact that this 2-mana minion could get buffed up, luckily for RDU, he is going to find a way to remove this. He's got the War Axe down. He's going to get patches to trade into it. But that could have been a disaster for him if he could not clear this 2/4.
Yeah, the quality of both players' hands is exceptional. And FADE2KARMA is looking at their hand like, if anything will beat a Dragon Warrior, this is potentially it. Yeah. So we have a shot at this. But suddenly, you know, the double pirate comes down on turn 2, replaces the weapon, a new weapon comes up, the Bloodcell Cultist, 2 pirates on the board for the South Sea Captain. So RDU is pretty happy about the current board state.
Yeah, and it just gets better for him as well. Next turn, he can buff up the weapon if he wants to. Alternatively, he can buff up his pirates. Depending on what Senfglas does, it plays going to be an run. So both players curving out perfectly. Looks like RDU has the slight advantage here, though.
Yeah, I like the cultist more as you're developing a bigger pirate, and if it sticks, then you get a 4/5 Bloodcell Cultist, which probably trades favorably with your hook that's being buffed into a 3/6 on the following turn, assuming that's the line of play that the priest has in hand right now. So
yeah, and also doesn't die to Shadow Word Pain or Death if he turns it into a 4/5, at least while the captain's on the board. Looks like RDU is going to go with the captain, though. Going to just trade. Is he not? Is he going to? Well, either way, the South Sea deckhand and the weapon are going into the minion. And it's
right, that's the thing, exactly, right? Like, no matter what the play is in that spot, the deckhand likely trades away into the Cabal Talon Priest. I don't see. I mean, I guess if you commit to phase damage, it's fine, but I wouldn't be a huge fan of that line. I really prefer developing the pirate and then buffing it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what RDU goes for. At the end of the day, if we went with the captain, it would have been a very, very similar board state, just a weaker weapon and weaker minion on the board. But I like this, as you said, curving into that, buffing up the 3/4 into a 4/5, and quite easily dealing with this minion that Senfglas has just put down as well.
Oh, what a card to find right now. Smoothing up the curve. There even was a need for it. That is so sick. RDU picking up a really good card in Finley. He's going to get a new hero power on the back of this.
All right.
Is he choosing, or is there a spectator mode glitch?
We might need to back out and go back into spectator.
Spectator mode is getting better patch by patch. Every single Hearthstone patch, I feel like the spectator mode just gets good.
Okay, no, we just didn't get shown. All right.
We just got the hero power for Hunter, and the Discover just didn't show up.
That's fine. At least it's done in the game. And RDU just continuing to develop into the face. Senfglas picking up Dragonfire Potion, though. Wow, both of these players picking up exactly what they need. Senfglas is just one turn too early. If he can hold out a little bit longer before he wants to clear the board, then he might actually pull his way back into this.
I mean, you have to just pitch the Drake and hope it soaks up some damage, as I don't expect it to be too meaningful in the future. You've got your turn 6 mapped out, so at this point it's just a matter of, well, do I want the extra 2 health now, or the extra 4 that the Drake grants me? You could also go for the Inner Fire to remove 2 damage from the 4/2, and then use your hero power to basically mitigate 4, which is the same as the Drake, but you keep the Drake in that case. You happen to draw 1 less card, but maybe that's fine.
That being said, there's always a chance that with the Drake coming down, RDU ignores it, and then it is the one surviving minion from Dragonfire Potion. Holy Nova, though, if the Drake survives, Holy Nova is even better than Dragonfire Potion right now.
G2 surely is aware of this and is going to take some precautions, probably not to let that, the game slip away from them.
Suddenly, there is a lot of damage in RDU's hand. Is that
Probably
18
better
damage?
combinations. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the better combinations you're probably looking to get if you want to finish off that priest very quick. You've seen one Twilight Guardian already, so he's down to, Wormist Agents and one more Twilight Guardian to taunt up.
Even one more Agent's gone, so the chances of Senfglas actually getting a taunt are very slim.
Yeah, and RDU is just going to go for maximum damage output over the next few turns. He's going to weave in a hero power with Corcoran next turn, and then a hero power with Leroy on the following turn to expand all the weapon charges and just finish off this priest in an explosion, really.
And Senfglas doesn't really have many choices here. His turn is Dragonfire Potion or Dragonfire Potion. And he still takes 5 damage from the Reaper, plus 2 from the hero power, plus anything else in RDU's hand.
I like the setup for the Arcanite Reaper here by G2. Instead of just, playing Corcoran and being mana inefficient and not getting, good turn 6 and 7s for the hero power. I like that a lot. Very well done. Big fan.
Blood Cell Raider, probably not the most crucial card here. It's unlikely. Well, I don't believe RD would want to use that hero power at this stage in the game, especially as he has so much damage ready to go. I don't think Senfglas can heal himself out of range, though he's going to go for it.
I mean, it adds up to more damage than a hero power if it lives, and if it doesn't live, then too bad, you're probably still winning anyway. Because he has to address this 4-3 and this 7-3, which is...
At the end of the day, what clears it? Dragonfire Potion, Shadow Word Death, either of those cards are not going to save Senfglas right now, as there's a Leroy Jenkins in RDU's hand.
Yeah, he's looking at this like, hey, I have, a total of 13 damage next turn. He has to heal for 5, 6, or taunt up, and kill these 2 guys, or he's dead. There's no 7 mana play that's going to do all these things at once in the Priest Arsenal right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the position where RDU is in, where he could hero power, he could play the minion. Either way, it's very, very unlikely that he loses this game. And Senfglas is going to dig through his deck with Powered Shield. I'm honestly not sure what he's going for here.
Well, if he picks up Shadow Word Pain, right, he can always Inner Fire the Corcoran and then Pain the...
Right, yeah, okay.
And I mean, technically, from his perspective, if he picked it up, he was still alive. In this spot, though, he sees that he's exactly dead with 10 health and 10 on board.
Yeah, dead on board. Drops the concede. And G2 take their first win, finally dealing with that pesky priest.
I mean, it had to happen at some point, so it's no big surprise. But on F2K's side, there are still, a lot of decks that are available to them. They don't have Paladin, they don't have Shaman, they don't have Rogue. They can still play Druid, they can still play Mage if they want to. They have Warlock available, which G2 did not ban. And they have their own Warrior as well that Alliestrasza can bring out.
So I guess it's a case of do they want to bring the Warrior, go for the mirror match, or do you rely on Reno Mage at this point? Maybe it's tricky, because the thing about Pirate Warrior is that they can win any matchup if you don't draw well enough.
Yeah, I would say though that if I were to bring out a deck here that could win, Tempo Mage or Reno Mage, Reno Mage probably more so. I
Yeah.
feel like the win rate of Tempo Mage for some reason against Warrior does not really reflect people's experience in it, where it doesn't have any healing, but it's able to get on the board very quickly.
Mhm.
So it's supposed to be able to handle the pirate aggression by using missiles and having mana worms up, but the speed at which Pirate Warrior gets out those small time Buccaneers and just pushes damage to your face forces you in a reactive spot where it's like when you're playing Tempo Mage Mirror Match and you're the one getting aggressed, right? You're just defending while he's throwing fireballs to your face, and that's kind of how it feels playing against the Pirate Warrior decks nowadays.
Yeah, do you know what? I have to admit that the fact that Tempo Mage is a deck that's been seeing a lot of play had completely slipped my mind for a moment there. I was just I had a one-track Reno Mage mind when I was considering the matchup. But you're absolutely right. That is definitely a factor. Though, as you said earlier, I would fancy my chance with Reno Mage just a little bit better. So I kind of fully expect to see the Mage come out from Jackie Chan here. Otherwise, I guess it could be the Warrior.
No, Warrior Mirror Match is definitely something to consider. There's also the possibility that it's a Dragon Warrior on the other side, which, although slightly less aggressive, has Alliestrasza as champion, which is notorious for being an amazing tool at handling some of that early aggression while leaving something up on the board for the opponent to handle. So they often need to throw a few hook hits into it, and then your dragons come up, taunt up, and then you just establish a big 5/4 on turn 5 and start going face, and then they're on the back foot as well.
Yeah, I guess we probably do expect Alliestrasza to play Alliestrasza as champion. It wouldn't really fit if she didn't.
That would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool if she actually went for that. Now, Senfglas is the only player that plays Hunter in their team. I wonder what matchup they're going to try to queue it up against. This is not the one they want, for sure. Hunter against Pirate Warrior is horrendous. There's really no good matchup for them in the Warrior.
I don't know. I'm honestly quite confused when it comes to Hunter. I mean, in the last series, we did see some wins. Granted, one of them was a mirror, so yeah, one of the Hunters did have to win that game. But
yeah. Well, there was against the Jade Druid, right? Was one of the victories, and that's one of the decks that really just struggles.
Yeah, I mean, Jade Druid kind of struggles against anything that's too fast, unless they get the perfect start with the living roots and the early ramp, I guess. But no, I'm unsure as to what matchup they're going to want with a Hunter as well. As predicted, though, here is Jackie Chan's Reno Mage.
With a Berkeley Bully.
Yeah.
So the version for the Antonitis Utter Value. And
there
again, a
so
small-time Buccaneer opener for G2, who gets the Pirates out super quickly. Jackie Chan, at least on the other side of the table, is on the coin and gets to use Arcane Blast on Curie if he so chooses.
Arcane Blast, very nice. Ice Block's nice to have, and Water Elemental card to have against the warriors that rely on weapons as well. RDU's hand is pretty disgusting, though. We've got Fiery War Axe, Salty Deckhand, Salty Captain picked up off the top there. So he has the tools he needs. It's just a question of how much of this can Jackie put a stop to.
Yeah, and based on the current hand, if we're looking for if we're taking the caster view and we're just looking at the hand texture, I like Jackie Chan's position a bit more just because of the fact that he's got the Water Elemental, and RDU is, he's got 4 weapon charges that are going to be escalated over multiple turns, but board presence wise, he's got nothing that's going to make the mage panic, because the mage can ping the 1/1 next turn and then ping another one next turn if he wants, and then Water Elemental. He's got time on his side. And with Ice Block, he's got even more of it. So it's a matter of finding enough card draw, I think.
Yeah, Ice Block is such a key card to have. You just put it down and then just hope that you pick up Reno soon. You kind of do need the Reno, but that really kind of cements the victory with Ice Block. And there are a lot of cards in Jackie's deck that aren't Reno, so there's no guarantee that he'll get that anytime soon. But Ice Block at least grants him one more turn.
Yeah, now he's considering whether or not it's ever worth it to do something other than pinging. The issue with doing anything else than that is that your Water Elemental is delayed 1 turn, which you do not want to see happen. And you might also just incidentally buff a Frothing if you play the 3/4 Manic Soulcaster that was picked up off the top.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way Jackie was going to decide not to ping that there. I mean, even wasting the coin this early seems wrong. Coining out Water Elemental could be viable. Though probably not now against this captain. There is Reno Jackson, though.
I don't mind the coin Water Ellie, if anything. It's, with Ice Block, you're probably getting there. And now the most important card in their deck, as you said.
Yeah. it just gives Jackie so many extra turns.
I wonder.
Yeah, now there's a consideration for, just playing Ice Block or playing a 3/4. The issue with playing a 3/4 is if there's, Blood Cell Cultist or Upgrade, then, down goes your minion and he's just going to keep punching while developing onto the board. So you're looking at a Coin Reno, skip a turn, play Flame Strike if things get out of hand a bit too quick.
And RDU's hand in particular would be pretty strong against Water Elemental here. He drops South Sea Deckhand, which of course is going to have 3 attack thanks to the captain. He can buff up the weapon, so the extra attack doesn't even matter. Hit the Water Elemental, keep hitting face with the captain, keep the momentum going. The long game definitely favors Jackie.
Right, that's kind of what the deck was built for, is just playing those long games. And playing the Water Elemental here puts RDU in a bit of a pickle because he's forced to use his weapon and one of his minions. But on the other side, it's only bad because he's getting an extra charge on the axe that he won't get to expand before Reaper comes out.
Yeah, it's such a good hand for Mar to use. Small-Time Buccaneer is another decent minion. His hand is getting worse and worse the later we get, though, because the more likely that Jackie is to have a board clear, suddenly cards like Small-Time Buccaneer become entirely useless, and RDU is going to want to have just cards with charge, cards that actually deal damage immediately. Because we get to a point very, very soon where none of RDU's minions are going to stick on the board. Jackie just has the better late-game minions, the better ways of controlling the board.
Small-Time Buccaneer could be played with the Blood Cell Cultist if you don't want to kill the Water Elemental yet, but I'd be surprised if we did not see the deck hand with the Cultist and a trade being done here. Is there a world in which you're trying to keep that weapon charge for the Reaper and you just don't play a 4/5? I'd be surprised.
I was considering that, actually, but I think just to put the card on the board is just worth it here. You want to try and put as much as you can down while Jackie won't have his board clears.
Yeah, it seems reasonable. I mean, there's a Fireball now that could be used to clean up the 4/5 as well.
Yeah, Jackie's not in any hurry to play Ice Block just yet. He knows RDU's face can't attack, so that's Heroic Strike off the table, and upgraded weapons gone. So he's really only taking the 7 damage that's on the board, plus maybe a Corcoran, or maybe a Leroy. So there's no way Jackie dies this turn. I like Fireball a lot.
No, he's going to opt to kill a South Sea Captain, which overall might reduce more damage over time than the 3/4, since it's effectively just, not a 4/5, it's really a 3/4, which is the same amount of damage as the South Sea Captain had it lived.
What an awkward draw for RDU, though. A minion that he just can't play this turn unless he wants to completely forego the Fiery War Axe damage.
Yeah, which is why I didn't like his starting hand all that much, aside from the Buccaneer, since it just had too many weapons to use effectively against the Mage.
Sure.
But at this point, it's really down to, the 2 Corcorans in the deck, the Leroy, the Heroic Strike that are going to come in handy in the future. Far from over, because the weapons can still all connect.
Right. Well, Kabbalist's Tome, and this is actually one of these situations where Jackie might have time to play it.
I think he might just Dirty Rat Soulcaster, but we'll see what he opts for, because I guess the question is, what would have been played this turn had there been, he armored up instead of playing Corcoran, right?
Right.
And he played a 1-drop and a Hero Power instead of Corcoran Elite. I'm guessing there's no Corcoran Elite in that hand. But I think I'm smashing that Dirty Rat pretty hard.
Okay, so that explains one of the cards not being played, and I think Jackie probably this is a very, very strong play. I mean, you're very happy with Dirty Rat when you pull out a 1/1, right? It's like you just summoned a 2/5 minion with Taunt for 2 mana and that's it.
Oh man, all right. This is such an interesting spot though for RDU, because he's looking at this like, okay, I want to double trade. Wait, I don't. I want to play Reaper and use my 1/1. Wait, I really don't. This feels pretty bad too. Luckily for him, he picked up the Corsair, so that can protect the Buccaneer and the 3/4, but it still leaves him in a bit of an awkward spot at the end of the day. Playing around Blizzard, maybe I want my 3/2 to die. I don't need it.
I'll be honest. If RDU could see Jackie's hand, I think he'd probably just lose all hope immediately. Because it's going to be, looking at how the board is right now, it's going to be difficult for RDU to actually connect 19 damage to the face over the next few turns as it is. But if he knew that not only Jackie would survive the first time, then heal up to 30, meaning that RDU actually needs to deal more than 19 damage to the face. Sorry, more than 49 damage to the face this game. He's not in a good spot.
He isn't in a good spot, but he's taking the route that's most likely to push the damage as early as possible. Because we're looking at this now, and he opted to not play around Blizzard. It's a one-of, not likely to happen. And this 3-2, if it doesn't die, is going to connect again, which means we extract value out of the Buccaneer, out of the Cultist, and out of the 1-1 as much as we can. And if that's not enough, then so be it. The Mage was meant to win the match, and we can just move on from the Warrior and maybe take another matchup we're more comfortable with, like, say, Dragon Priest against the Reno Mage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reason that Jackie picked Reno Mage was because he believed that it would be favored against the Warrior. This is how last year's standing was at the start of the series. You tend to get counter into counter into counter, which is why RDU countering the Priest with his Rogue and losing with it has put him in such a tough spot.
Yeah, so in this spot, I imagine we probably will see Ice Block come out and either the Acolyte or Ping. I think Acolyte just for the draw is better, but I wouldn't have minded seeing the Ping here, because it gives a trade to your opponent if he chooses to now that you left the 1-1 up.
Sure. Okay, well, RDU picks up a nice 2-mana 7/3. That's not bad. But there is a Flame Strike in Jackie's hand. And because Ice Block is down, Jackie can pretty much do what he wants for the next few turns. He can just Flame Strike this board away and not worry about dying at all.
And RDU is going to be considering this, like, okay, so if I push face and I pop the Ice Block next turn while he's on 4 health, I can still get Corcoran or Leroy or Heroic Strike for the win, so that's all fine by me. If he Flame Strikes, I don't care. The issue is, there's Reno, so he will care. But in the off chance that there is no Reno, it's actually not a lost game for RDU, if anything. It might even be better. See, like, next turn would have been lethal had there not been a Reno, as of right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But unfortunately, first card in Jackie's hand, been about turn 3.
His smile.
It's going to ruin this game for RDU. He's sitting there hoping that there's no Reno Jackson. If Jackie needed to, he could obviously ping the Acolyte first, but down it comes.
Oh, no. RDU just leaning back in his chair like, are you serious? You drew last? Yeah, it didn't matter. We were playing this anyway, no matter how you spun it. RDU set up a sick lethal, though, and it didn't pan out.
Wouldn't it have been more frustrating if Jackie pinged the Acolyte, picked up Reno, made it right there?
Yeah, I don't think that would have tilted RDU since he... Well, it might have. You want to take all of the chances you can with RDU at the wheel. You're trying to maximize the tilt value and get it done. Now, with this Warrior losing for G2, what this means is, on the flip side, you know, there's an equality, there's like a lead that's being taken by F2K, but RDU does not have to play anymore. He can just watch his teammates play and help them, you know, with the matches that they've got and the decisions that they have to make, as his Warrior and Rogue have both lost at this point.
Yeah, I mean, RDU's still not going to be feeling good, obviously, being in this his both of his decks, but I guess that's one of the benefits of being in a team tournament rather than playing as an individual. Even if one of the players is feeling a little bit tilted, they've got their teammates there to kind of say, hey, don't worry, calm down, it's fine, let's just take a breath and come back with the next game. And you were saying earlier on when you were talking about G2, this is one of the teams that really does work together. We've seen them do amazing things together recently. And so if anyone's going to be able to work together to avoid tilt, I think it's these guys.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they didn't have the composure needed to get through this. Now, this is actually not a bad time to get the mid-range Hunter or Secret Hunter out. It's one of the least bad matchups you'll probably run into, unless you're expecting to queue it up against the Druid like we saw a little bit earlier. If you want to get that mage with the Hunter, you can give it a shot. You know, it might work and might not. The Priest from Lifecoach as well, likely Dragon Priest is going to be a fantastic matchup for it against Reno Mage that is just able to put on a ton of board pressure.
Yeah, both of those seem like good decisions. So G2 shouldn't have too hard a time dispatching this Reno Mage. He's not going to get any... We saw from Jackie's opening that it's a very kind of value-heavy, burglary bully Antonidas build. There's not really any good matchups left now for that deck. There's no like Reno Lock on the other side, or nothing late game control like that. So I believe that G2 is in a pretty good spot against this deck, regardless of which deck they pick.
I think like the Hunter is always going to be the lowest like the lowest win rate deck in this spot, right? Where you end up where like you get it. Okay, maybe it's a 45, but that maybe that's what Hunter gets. Maybe that's what they have to go for. They have to shoot for 45, 55 and hope that they manage to seal the game. Whereas Jade Druid and Dragon Priest seem like autopilots to victory here, right?
Yeah.
So it's a matter of what you're worried about losing if you lose this match, or if you win this one and then they counter queue. What do they have to counter queue your other decks?
Yeah, I don't know. Like the Druid is an interesting one. We were both saying earlier that we think the Priest is probably a little bit favored just because it tends to get a faster start. But then there's always the chance of the Druid going turn 1, innovate Fandral into turn 2 Wrath and pulling it away. But they can do that against any deck, I guess.
Well, I mean, against Reno Mage, Jade Druid is definitely pretty far ahead, I'd say, right? Like if you want to go against Reno Mage and you've got the Druid in your roster, I definitely consider that deck as one of the best contenders to get the win. But if then they get the counter queue, they could just get the Warrior out and you're going to be in trouble.
It's so complicated. The fact that Jackie's deck, though, does have the combo-iness of the Antonidas package does mean that he could come back with some surprise burst at some point. Like if an Antonidas sticks to the board, then it's over. Like any deck loses to that. But you're right. The Jade Druid is definitely pretty solid against Reno Mage, just because those Jades get bigger and bigger, and Mage can only deal with them so many times.
Yeah, I mean, right now we heard that Thjis is going to be bringing out the Druid, so we have to figure out what's next, right? For FADE2KARMA once that matchup goes through. If they're able to win against the Druid with Reno Mage, if they pull it off, this would be so sick. As you mentioned, the Archmage is one of those avenues you can take to solidify a win. That would be absolutely insane. And a card like Burgly Bully, right, which seems so absurd to talk about, it's kind of one of the, I feel like one of the sleeper cards in the point, but that card has fantastic value in terms of what it lets you set up. And if you're running Archmage, that just seems like a natural extension of your game plan. So Burgly Bully, very good card in Reno Mage, and against Druid, a 4/6 is kind of pesky, to say the least.
I'm relatively certain that come next rotation, Burgly Bully is going to end up. Just the fact that it's kind of a better spectral knight, you know, it's the 5-mana 4/6, and as well as kind of your opponent can't destroy it with spells, your opponent also can't destroy your other minions with spells, because if they do, you get this huge benefit of the extra coin, which can be comboed with cards like Antonidas, but can also just be used for extra mana one turn. You know, if Bully comes down on turn 5, 2 coins are given to you while your opponent deals with it, you can play an 8-drop on turn 6. The amount that you can get from that card is insane.
Yeah, we'll have to wait until Patches isn't in charge anymore, and then maybe we can sneak in a Burgly Bully here and there. For the time being, though, it's going to be Jade Druid versus Reno Mage, which again comes down to how quickly the Druid is able to get those Jades rolling. Because if you give too much time to the Mage, it can be tricky. Like the ramp in the matchup is, of course, amazing because you get to Eye up quicker, you get to Jade Behemoth quicker. But the important part is really how many Jade cards do you find? It's really down to the Jade card count. You could not get Wild Growth, but as long as you have the Jade Idol and as long as you get the Jade Blossom, it's okay. Like you can play it slowly. As long as you get a Jade every single time you get a chance to. Eventually the Mage will be buried under value, and they can Fireball a 6/6, but the next one coming up is a 7/7. Like how do you handle all that? There's only so many polymorphs in Reno Mage.
The Mage gets to the point where they just start freezing the board, right? Like, okay, there's a 7/7 and an 8/8 now. Let's Frost Nova. Okay, now there's a 9/9/2. Let's Blizzard. Flame Strike doesn't really do much.
Right, and then it gets really difficult. These matches can get to the very bottom of the Mage deck if they get decent answers, but more often than not, the game is just spiral out of control at some point. One of the important parts for the Mage very frequently is just to make sure that Aya Black Paws polymorph, to make sure you deny some ramping up of value on the golems and also prevent a minion from being spawned. The transformation effect from Kazaka's potion is also fantastic. This seems to be a very value-oriented Reno Mage. We saw Kabbalist Tome. There may be a Medivh in there, which again is another one of these avenues that helps you fight for the board if you have...
That would be greedy.
Yeah.
Well, it would be very greedy. I mean, it would be great. Like Medivh is one of the cards which can allow the Reno Mage to come back against the Druid, because if you can get that down on turn 8 and then play right into a Flame Strike, you've suddenly got a big board, you've potentially killed your opponent's board, and you've actually done what Reno Mages aren't that good at doing. You've actually put stuff on the board to be dealt with. Another card that can win the matchup for the Reno Mage is actually Kazakus. If you can on turn 5, like resummon minions and give them extra health, Druids can't deal with that.
Yeah, so you might be able to outboard a Jade Druid, which is kind of funny to say, but there are very specific cases where the mage can do it, and that's why the matchup isn't something like 100-0 or a 95-5.
Yeah.
It's really like in the 70-30 in favor of Druid, because of the way the deck tends to pan out and how consistent it is. I mean, card draw is in there, big minions are in there. And before we move on to the match and the players are getting ready, we have spectator glitches. I want to just touch on one last point about Jade Druid, that people, look at the deck as kind of a Cthulhu deck, right? Which is like you play minions on curve. The truth of it is that Jade Druid is more of a control deck that happens to close out the game before fatigue. Like, it has the option of going there, but it's built to be using their Jade Golems in the mid game as control tool. So they're really just spells on legs, and then they start putting out the big damage instead of going Alliestrasza, Grom, Gorhal to face. They just finish it off in the form of minions. So it's a control deck for Druids that can also play for tempo if they get a really sick hand. So that's one of the points that I like the most about the deck. It's a very different control approach.
It's very different. I feel as though it's one of the decks that maybe frustrates players the most right now, because just because of how polarizing the matchups are. Like you said, yeah, sure, it's not 100% to the Druid, but 70-30 is a pretty big matchup. Control Warrior is almost completely shut out of the meta at the moment because they queue against a Jade Druid, they lose. That is one matchup that is more like 80-20 or 90-10. It's even worse for the Warrior than this matchup is for the Mage.
Yeah, the only time where we see like Control Warrior come up is when the metagame is essentially Miracle Rogue, Pirate Warrior, and I mean, nobody plays Control Shaman, but that would be a deck you're favored against. But in the grand scheme of things, there aren't that many decks that Control Warrior is made to beat.
Yeah.
Hence why you tend to not see much of it.
I mean, I know a few people that did this season hit Legend with Control. I said, how did you do it? And they replied, I avoided the Druids. That's it. I dodged the Druids. That's how I did it.
I dodged them all the way through. I mean, the thing is, there's definitely a pocket of the meta where that deck works, because Druids also get farmed by the highly aggressive decks, right? Like, you can definitely dodge Druids because they're really tough to get to work when you live in a world of aggro Shaman and mid-range Jade Shaman, which is better in many aspects than Jade Druid, and the aggro Warrior. So Control Warrior does find spots to insert itself into the metagame because Rogue, Shaman, and Warrior are always there, and you can sometimes do well against a decent chunk of the field.
Yeah, it's just a very polarizing deck in general. The Druid.
So,
I get frustrated by it.
The matchup is over. Like, imagine the matchup is over. Druid wins.
Okay.
What's the best counter F2K's got in their lineup? I think Warrior is the most logical go-to afterwards.
Yeah, I guess it's Warrior or Hunter at that stage. Or I guess they could go with their own Druid, couldn't they? Reno Lock is a no-no. I think that's the only deck they shouldn't choose.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky to win the long game.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I guess if they're running combo, as we were talking about earlier, then they can win. If they play an early Jiraxxus, they can win. But here we go. We're on turn 4.
We actually skipped a few turns. We don't know where the Jade's at. We don't know the mana cost of the Druids. The framing here is a little bit off.
This is very relevant, as I was saying. Like, one of the ways the Mage can win this is a turn 4 Kazakus into a very good potion. So depending on what this potion is, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a very good one for the Mage. Jackie Chan was one of the best potions probably in the matchup. This has got to be one of them. And Core Hound from...
Mulch.
What's from? Mulch, probably. Okay. So Aya Blackbot is just starting the Jade Golem train. Oh, no. That is terrible. Very slow opener for the Druid player. That is Thjis piloting the deck.
It's like both of our predictions from before came true. You said the Druid can possibly not draw any of the Jade cards, in which case they're in a bad situation. I said the Mage can win if they get a turn 4 Kazakus and one of the best potions. Both of those things have come true now. So it's actually looking good for the Mage after all.
Yeah, we're having trouble spectating Thjis right now for lack of contacting him. So we'll try to get that resolved as soon as possible. For the time being, though, definitely the ball is in Jackie Chan's favor, like in his court. Thjis has the potential for a swipe. Yeah, I can definitely get a swipe in that spot.
Swipe is okay, but I don't know what else. Like, I think it's just swipe that kind of starts to bring the board back, and even that doesn't actually deal with everything, not quite. Drake isn't going to do it.
Well, Drake's helpful. There could be an innervate swipe, which helps clean up a lot of that stuff. Again, it's not a matter of, killing the opponent fast, because unless Jackie Chan, gets to just go face and ignore the board, these burn spells will have to be used on minions at some point.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much from Thjis, right? It just needs one good turn with golems to come up, and suddenly things get a little bit hairy for Jackie Chan.
But that's just a hero power. So this is interesting. I suppose, so we could see Frostbolt Fireball, potentially. No, we can't now because Thjis has made the trade. So it's just a Forbidden Torch ping, I guess. Babbling Book feels like a very good card to pick up, especially if Jackie Chan is making the Torch ping play, because you can just drop the Babbling Book first.
Babbling Book is great too, because if it finds burn, you might reconsider your line and just go Acolyte ping, try to find more draw, and just go full face. In this spot, though, Shatter is going to be helpful with Frost Nova later on. For now, I think your Forgotten Torch approach is fantastic. You're setting up sick burst over a few turns.
Yeah, and you're right. Shatter's not bad at all, actually, because these Jades will get bigger and bigger, and Shatter is a card that actually care how big they get.
It's like, you have Druid of the Claw, you have Jade Behemoth. Let me just kill it and go face for 8 with my little 5/5 and 3/4.
This is the most aggressive. It's the most aggressive Reno deck I've ever seen, especially if we see the Core Hounds come down this turn.
Honestly, there's a good chance of that, depending on what Thjis ends up doing this turn. Because the best play I could see coming from a Thjis' side is something like double swipe, which, frankly, if there had been a swipe, we might have just seen it already. A turn ago when he opted to play the Drake. So we might just be down to a top-decked swipe, or an all-in, one Ancient of War, go. Behemoth, go. Feels like that's what he's got.
FADE2KARMA just seem to be, at the moment, doing it again, winning these unfavored matchups. Thjis is stuck just playing Nourish. I mean, great, okay, it restocks his hand. He could have a good play next turn, but this feels like it was a pretty vital turn to miss.
It's a pretty vital turn because he knows that he's on a 2-turn clock if the mage has any burn. And you don't want to be the guy giving your opponent any time. And he's going to mulch the 5/5, so that's a second mulch, I believe, right?
Yeah, unless the first one gave him a Raven Idol, we have no way of knowing.
Okay. I'm not sure how that would have happened. Early in the game, he had to go Raven Idol into mulch to kill.
It's possible. His Jades were still very small, so he wasn't
probably
playing
killed
those.
Brand with it because it got resurrected from the potion. And the Core Hound's coming down. Oh, man.
We're piecing the history of this game together bit by bit.
Oh my god. Double swipe, swipe Wrath. Again, we need to find removal pieces if we're on Thjis' side at this point. Because right now, Jackie Chan is looking at lethal. He's just thinking, okay, if this Core Hound lives, you're done for.
I mean, there are a lot of possibilities from Thjis here. Even Wrath Living Roots at least deals with the 9 damage there. Fandral, probably not a bad card to start out with, but what does he play with it?
Hopefully it's not, oh god, I was going to say, hopefully it's not any type of Jade Idol line where he's just hoping the Golem stick. He needs to kill this 9/5 desperately.
Does he have something to do 1 damage now? That's the question. It looks like he does.
The perfect swipe. They've been setting it up for 3 turns. They were just thinking, okay, we just need to get Nourish and then we're good to go, guys.
Suddenly, things are not looking so good for Jackie Chan now.
Because
that's it. Because Arcus is done. It's gone. The potion has happened. Thjis has dealt with it. Now what does Jackie do?
There's Feral Rages left in the deck as well, which represent a substantial amount of health. So the burst for Jackie Chan not going to happen anytime soon. That was a crucial turn for Thjis. The swipe, again, the most important card he could have hoped for.
And another question is, like, how does Jackie actually deal with this Fandral this turn? Forbidden Flame might actually be the card he ends up using, because everything else is just a little bit awkward.
Yeah, I like the Forbidden Flame a lot. What's cool too is that if a Jade Behemoth comes out this turn, it brings out a 4/4 which dies to Flame Strike, and the 3/6 which you can finish off with the Arcane Blast if you so choose, while developing a Mistress of Mixtures on the back of it. So that would give you decent, a semi-decent board, and then you have room for Kabbalist Tome, and maybe you pick up some better answers in the future.
Yeah, you're right. The 4/4 Jades work out very nicely for as long as there aren't too many. If Tyson ended up playing 3 Jade Golems or something this turn, it would be a bit of a disaster. If this Flame Strike does line up correctly, though, it's a big deal because then Frostnova Shatter deals with another one, and Jackie's just got a little bit more time. Although, the more time goes on, in theory, the better the matchup gets for the Druid.
Yeah, the Dice's hand, honestly, you could read that there probably was an Innervate, and you could read that there was likely a swipe after he's drawn so much, but it was very difficult to anticipate exactly what was in there. Now, one Jade Golem comes out with Ragnaros, the nemesis of Freeze Mage in general, and Reno Mage plays very much like it. Shatter, a welcome sight there.
Yeah, what a frustrating card for Jackie to have to deal with here. Double Mistress of Mixtures, actually. It does 2 things. It widens his board so that Ragnaros is less likely to hit anything vital if it survives. But unfortunately, it also heals the Druid, and Jackie really does not want to do that.
I think you Nova Shatter every time, right?
Yeah.
Like, you need to kill that Rag as quickly as you can.
Yeah, you're right. He has to. So Nova Shatter, I guess you can develop the Acolyte as well.
Yeah, it lets you play a ping. Nova Shatter plus Acolyte double Mistress. Acolyte Mistress, sorry. That's a reasonable line of play. Fireball, Arcane Blast lets you just play a bit slower. Yeah. Here's a question. Here's a question. Can you use any of your burn on these minions realistically?
Oh, what, and still win the game?
Right, and my second question is, can you afford Nova-ing knowing that there's going to be more of these Jades where this one came from?
You know, I actually agree with Jackie's line here.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really hard for him to win this, but you're right. Frost Nova is too valuable. And at least with this play, he was able to develop the Acolyte and ping it, whereas there was no way he could have done that if he went Frost Nova Shatter. It just wasn't quite the mana.
And the Nourish comes off for 3 more cards for the Druid, which represent a ton of potential Jade Golems. We've seen a shuffle of a Jade Idol earlier. We're not remotely done here. And Jackie Chan kept the Nova to make sure that if more Jades were added to the board, he could at least freeze it, buy himself a turn, and pick up something else to do. With Emperor Thaurissan, that also gives him a way to discount all the cards in his hand on that same turn.
Yeah, this is interesting at this stage. You have to assume that Thjis has picked up at least 1 more Jade Idol, and probably another 2 realistically, or at least a Jade Spirit or something. Or Jade Blossom, sure, that'll do. And I guess Jackie just has to Flame Strike ping for now. It's the only time Flame Strike is ever going to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, in this spot, when you're this low on health, it's one of these very clunky spots if you're the Druid player, if you're the Mage player, where you need to get, your Reno as soon as possible, because, the Feral Rage is in there, Swipe is in there. That's very scary.
Oh, hold on a moment. What is that? That is a potentially game-changing pickup there. Both, 2 Mulches have been used by Thjis. Antonidas, Frost Nova.
That could be the win right away.
Yeah, right? Next turn is 2 Fireballs plus Antonidas plus ping.
Or better yet, you just go Blizzard into Fireball to face and use the second one, even if the Archmage dies through some magic and voodoo sorcery. So I think Jackie Chan might have to commit to that line of play just to make sure nothing bad happens.
Yeah, I mean,
I like
Flame Strike looked nice until this was picked up, but now you're absolutely right. I don't think there's any way I don't think there's any other play except Antonidas Frost Nova here.
All right, let's see what Thjis is able to do. 1 Molt from Raven Idol was probably used in the early game. We were not here and we didn't see it. There could be a second one from the other Raven, but who knows?
If there is, Thjis is fishing for it. I guess he could also be fishing for a Feral Rage. That's another card that does potentially allow him to survive, but something's targeting.
Another Mulch?
Naturalize!
Oh, God! Naturalize from Raven Idol for Thjis. What a sick card. If the Reno gets milled, This could be insane.
Does Reno even matter anymore at this stage? It looks
Probably
like
not. Only win. Like, there's no other way to do this.
yeah,
Aside from Blizzard, Fireball Face into Fireball Roaring Torch, I don't see this working out otherwise.
and
This is some
obviously
kind of Hail Mary.
the next card Jackie draws gets milled. So if he picks up Roaring Torch now, he's probably just lost the game.
All right, maybe the Kabbalist Tome can do something surprising, but we've seen one freeze, and this is exactly what we were alluding to when we started the game, which is very often you're a mage in that spot and you just freeze to freeze. You don't freeze to set up anything. You just freeze because you have to freeze. And this is kind of it.
Here's the other thing as well. Thjis has just drawn so many cards. Feral Rage is probably one of those cards.
Yeah, and he can probably at the very least guarantee that he gets it off of the Gaddison Auctioneer next turn. So if we see a Blizzard and, you know, Fireball Face,
I think it's the only play though.
there's the Flame Strike, Arcane Blast, Ping, and you leave yourself at 5 health, but I don't think that's where you want to be, because you die to Feral Rage and swipe.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you don't actually gain anything from making that play. You just destroy the board temporarily, but it comes back even bigger next turn. The Blizzard play at least allows you to deal 6 face damage. Oh, it's tricky though. It's not 6 is not enough.
I mean, you could Blizzard double Mistress and maybe heal yourself a bit. And the problem is then you don't have any more freezes, so you're blanking on freezes, and you know that Kabbalist Tome is your only out for more of those, right? From the way I understand where this is going, that's really the only way I could see this work.
Wow,
He's
He's
fishing for Nova and did not find said Nova. It does find Mirror Image, which is cute, but ultimately futile.
Yeah, cute is a very good word here because there is enough damage on the board to finish Jackie Chan off. And even if there wasn't, Thjis only has about 20 draws with Kajazan Auctioneer well, 10 draws with Kajazan Auctioneer if he needed it to pick up damage to remove these taunts. And that is going to be as it should have been from the very start before things got a little bit sticky for Thjis. That is going to be Thjis's game with the Druid.
Right. At the beginning, though, like one of the things is the framing of the screen was just not very visible, so I couldn't see the mana count if the Druid had ramped up. Now that we saw that he played an Aya on something like turn 4, that puts things into perspective, right? Where suddenly the matchup might have not, maybe it didn't go as poorly as it initially seemed, and he had the Nourish. Not seeing the hands really didn't give us much information, but now that we know how this concluded, Druid is going to get another chance to play in the series, and Mage is down for F2K.
But we did discuss this potential outcome earlier, and we kind of established that F2K do have ways of countering this Druid. That there are actually still quite a few cards they have remaining. They still have Ali's Warrior. They still have Hunter, which is potentially... we saw Hunter beat Druid in the previous series. We could easily see history repeat itself right now.
Yeah, it's definitely easy to see the Warrior come out here and just do work against the Druid. Unfortunately, the Priest is out, so that is no longer an option for F2K, which is not going to get to play that matchup. But yeah, I think Warrior, very reasonable. You know, Rogue and Shaman are out, Paladin's out, so you're down to your Warrior as the best matchup.
Yeah, I mean, they can even go for the Druid if they want. They can even go for the mirror match.
Hunter seems like this might be its only okay matchup as well. We saw that happen in the previous series earlier. So if you're forced to play Hunter at any point, this is where you want it. But
you're right.
Still doesn't feel good.
You're right. The alternative is you don't play Hunter and you hope you never have to play Hunter. And you end up having to play Hunter last against a worse matchup. So based on that logic, I think now is the time to play Hunter. Probably the only time to play Hunter.
If you win, then all the better. You don't anticipate to, and it's usually a throwaway deck in the metagame. So you might as well just get the best possible matchup you can. And if you're playing a mid-range Hunter or a Secret Hunter, you could cast Druid off guard and just do, crazy Animal Companion things very early.
Sure. And as I say, like in the previous series, Hunter beat Druid. So it's now or never. I assume we're waiting while we get spectator mode fixed at the moment.
Yeah, well, waiting for Thjis to give us access to spectator mode. Something went wrong with the process. It tends to be a pretty common occurrence when the accounts are, on the player side, and there's very little in terms of setup. Like it's not an official account. We can't get constant communication with them. Sometimes these things happen. That being said, That was still a very good series. I really thought the Mage was nailing it early game, and then Thjis just came through with all these Jade Golem spawns. And as you noticed, they didn't get that big right until the very end when they just snowballed. They went from 4-4 to 9-9 awfully quick. It took very little time. And that's what the deck does best, is it just controls the board early game, tries to stabilize.
And that's what Gadgetzan Auctioneer does, right? Like, you hold on to it until you're through most of your deck and you have a few Jade Idols in your hand, and then you just play as many of them as you possibly can.
Sorry, I think I'm glitching in terms of on Skype. I'm not sure about Discord, but my video is definitely lagging.
Remaining decks, may as well mention this very quickly. Lifecoach still has his Priest and Hunter, I believe, not played yet. Thjis is obviously playing his Druid right now. Senfglas has his Hunter. Jackie has his Druid, and Alliestrasza has her Warrior and her Warlock, all remaining. And this is, of course, best out of 11 last hero standing.
Yeah, so with the Priest and the Mage already having locked 3 victories on F2K's side and only 2 wins on G2's side with Warrior and Druid, that's actually a lot of classes that G2 went through already. They went through 3 other classes. They might be able to get an extra win with the Druid, which would equalize the entire field. But F2K right now is pretty far ahead.
Right. Well, it feels like F2K got such a great start, but the score is only 3-2 at the moment.
Yeah.
And yes, it is F2K's chance to counter the Druid, so we could easily see 4-2 at the end of this game. But like we saw F2K win a bad matchup earlier, G2 could easily do the same thing now. It could just end up being 3-3. We've seen that these series can get very, very close earlier on with Show's incredible, almost reverse sweeping performance there. Yeah. So, I wouldn't count G2 out or anytime soon.
Yeah, the word is in, by the way. It's going to be a Druid mirror match. So we'll have J Druid versus J Druid. I mean, there could be a surprise Kuna, Viana. Let's go. Let's do this. But I don't anticipate it. It would be great to witness, as we haven't seen much of that gameplay of recent memory.
Oh, hang on a moment. This is
Jackie-chan. This is it. Go ahead. I know this deck, but go ahead. Tell me what it is.
Well, it's Jackie-chan is obviously very popular for his egg druid of old. He's having a bit of a giggle there, but it's going to be a token druid, which runs Patches the Pirate, apparently. I don't think I've ever seen Patches run in druid before, so there's a first time for everything.
Okay, I've seen it quite a bit, so I've played a ton of this deck, if that's interesting to you at all. Basically, you aim to be on the coin, and that's your best play, where you go Bloodcell Corsair, which removes weapons in the case of some matchups, and then you go Innervate, play another 1-drop, then you have 3 minions, then turn 2 you play another 1-drop, and you play Mark of the Lotus, and you win the game. This is an absurd deck as far as just developing onto the board and getting damage in quick, but if anything, this deck runs out of steam extremely quickly, which is why it runs cards like Runic Egg, which help it a lot in terms of keeping some degree of card advantage or some degree of card equalization in the long term. So very cool deck.
Nope, I'm ashamed to say this is one of those decks that I Finger, Murlocky Druid, sure, yeah, I've seen a bunch of that and the Coon stuff, of course, but not this one. But if anyone was going to be playing it in a tournament, I'm not even the slightest bit surprised that we're seeing Jackie do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's running the same package as he used to be. There are a few cards that are, debatable. Some people play Knife Juggler, Barnes, and these really weird cards that don't necessarily fit the playstyle. Some people have even tried Pilfered Power, but a real token deck just goes all in. That's just what it does. There's really no room for, just being cautious. And now Thjis is really wondering, what is this? He knows this could be it. They know Jackie-chan. Yeah. There's a smile on these guys' faces because they know what's coming. They have no answer whatsoever.
There's Lifecoach in deep concentration, and RDU and Thjis both smirking.
Man.
Why is Jackie roping us? What are we about to see? He goes with the Runic Egg on turn 1 rather than the Pirates. Obviously, this could be punished next turn if Jackie does pick up Patches, but Thjis is just hitting the face. And,
there's a very simple reason for that. It's so you don't give him a hero power turn.
Right, okay, yeah, of course. And now, this is going to be devastating for Thjis. 2 Pirates hit the board, Mark of the Lotus buffs everything.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do it! And now we've got a 3-3, a 1-3, and a 2-2 connecting phase in the Pirate Druid. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why some people think Patches is pretty good. When
It's
you're
an
playing
okay
it,
card, isn't it?
you're playing it in. I mean, the thing is, I don't even mind it in Druid. You know, I find it funny that it's played here. I just find it amazingly funny that it's even a thing. Whereas in other decks, you know, Small Time Buccaneer does nasty things. It's not in the Druid package, right? This is just Bloodcell Corsair, Hail Mary, give me a 1/1. I need Mark of the Lotus value.
Right.
It's not nearly as oppressive and ubiquitous.
Hey, and look, Thjis picked up Swipe, but what's it gonna do?
Nothing. It's gonna do
It's
nothing.
the best card in his deck for this situation, but it does nothing.
Yeah, I'd argue that we're down to Jade Behemoth Hail Marys at some point, just to slow down a little bit, right? Like, slow down, please, and then maybe we can get something done. Yeah, this...
I'm just looking at the players' facial expressions at this point.
I mean, Lance Carrier's a card? I don't think I've ever seen this before. Lifecoach must be freaking out, because of the 3 players on G2, I think Lifecoach may be the player who least expects this type of deck to arrive.
I doubt that Lifecoach and JJ have practiced against this kind of thing very much.
Oh my god! Let's do it! Soul the Forest, because why not? Let's just get this Jade Druid out of the way. Screw this. Screw this. We're done. We're done here, ladies and gents. Pack your bags. We're going home.
Now I can see why Jackie has queued Druid into Druid. Like, it's not like this is a 50-50, no. This has to be one of the most for Jackie's deck, because Druid just don't have board clears. Swipe is the best they've got, and Swipe isn't enough.
I mean,
Swipe's
the fact
really
that you
good.
get a 1-mana 2/2 is just very good baseline. You flood the board too quick. All you need is one AoE buff, and suddenly Swipe is dead. Heart of the Wild, Mark of the Lotus doesn't matter. AoE buff, you win. Which is exactly what ended up happening here. What a beautiful beginning.
Wow.
Wow.
I bet that I bet that G2 are devastated. Now G2 need to work out what they're going to counter this Druid with, and they've got Priest and Hunter. Does the Hunter run Explosive Trap? That's the question.
If it's running the trap package, I could see that happening, because it's pretty good against Patches. But the thing is, you often don't want to leave Patches decks up, is what the general strategy of people has been going into this. So, you know, maybe you'd still stack your odds against it, because people tend to stack all the Patches classes on the same player. I'd expect Explosive Trap in every deck for Hunters.
Yeah, I agree. If we're about to see Hunter versus, does that even count as Token Druid? Does it even run Violet Teacher, or is it just?
Well, Token is, I guess, Flood Druid is the way we've been calling
Flood
it.
Druid. Okay, I'll go with that. So Hunter versus Flood Druid. Goodbye, Hearthstone meta. I like whatever this is. I want to see some more of this.
It's very, I wouldn't say it's inconsistent, because it's running like a ridiculous amount of 1-drops, like 14. I don't know, it's ridiculous. And you need the Mark of the Lotus on top of that, and you need some face damage, Savage Roar to win the game. So Lifecoach is going to be facing off against that deck, probably knowing the least about it.
Right.
I want to say the least, because he's the type of player that would practice against quote-unquote rational things. But if he's practiced against this, then, all the power to him.
Well, this has definitely lined up very, very well for FADE2KARMA. And the score is 4-2, right? So now when you're 2 wins ahead, that's a huge advantage. That being said, I believe Complexity had as big an advantage in the last series, and they did not end up winning. So it's still not over, but Lifecoach has a very big task ahead of him.
Yeah, I want to see if Jackie Chan changed his Druid list at all, because it used to contain weird cards like Pantry Spider. Like the type of card you just look at and think, what is this doing here? And then he goes Defensive Argus or Soul of the Forest, and you find yourself in a really awkward spot. The deck is built around just getting stuff on the board as quick as possible. I think the deck is even running Mark of Yasharj as a buff card without even the intention of necessarily hitting an Enchanted Raven. It's just playing it because it's a buff card. It's such a weird deck.
I mean, it's a buff card with the possible upside of getting the card draw. Like, I can't see it being any worse than Mark of the Wild, because does Taunt actually mean anything when you're running this deck?
Right. Oftentimes it doesn't, unless you slap it onto a Runic Egg, and then the opponent's forced to give you card draw. Same thing with Dragon Egg. They're just forced to give you more value than they'd like. So it makes some matchups pretty interesting in terms of dynamics and where you decide to put your stuff. Kind of like it.
Right. Whereas Lifecoach is the only player with decks remaining on G2 side. All three of the FADE2KARMA players have decks remaining. With Ali, Ali hasn't even played yet.
I mean, we've seen like she's got Warrior left, so that's a matchup. But that's the deck that you'll be able to win with probably. And there's the Warlock left. So
Warrior and Reno Lock definitely seem to be pretty strong decks at the moment. Again, if last series is anything to that did the most carrying.
Yeah, we'll see if there's a spectator glitch again, or if it's just the Northshire Cleric being stuck and floating. We'll have to see.
I want to know if Jackie has had his mulligan yet or not, because if he's ended up with patches in his opening hand, I guess that's one of the can go wrong with that deck. Because, as you said earlier, you can run out of steam easily, and drawing patches means you essentially get one less card draw, and you run out of steam just a little bit faster.
Yeah, and more importantly, in this deck, you're not quick. Because if you're not quick at getting onto the board with that deck, it's such a drawback. Because you want to buff the board with Mark of the Lotus, with Power of the Wild, but there's no board. Because you didn't get patches, and suddenly things go very poorly against you. But he had the mulligan option and ended up getting it out of his hand. And he has the Bloodcell Corsair if he wants it. Not sure you do it at this point. I would be inclined to just play the Dragon Egg, perhaps.
Oh, the egg is so tempting here, yeah, because Lifecoach just won't deal with it. Maybe it's... Is that even the end of the world for Jackie? I don't think so.
I wonder...
In fact, Lifecoach's hand is pretty appalling, actually.
Against this type of deck, that's not what you want. You're really looking for that Wormist. You're really looking for the 3/5. Anything that'll get you more than one kill on a minion is important.
To be fair, Northshire Cleric trades well against almost everything in the deck. So that's one thing he's got going for him. But Northshire Cleric on its own is not a...
Yeah. What I like about Dragon Egg, too, is that it lets you set up like a Bloodcell Corsair, Coin Lance Carrier to trade into the Northshire, if you really want to get rid of it.
Oh, what a pickup from Lifecoach there. His hand suddenly not looking quite as abysmal.
Until you realize that Mark of Yasharj gives Jackie Chan multiple little whelps. We'll have to see how this works out.
Mark of the Lotus.
Maybe there's
crazy draw here.
Argent Squire, Coin, Lance Carrier. I could see that.
Those Blood Cell cards are not going to be dispatching any weapons in this matchup.
Yeah, feeling a little bit awkward if you're Jackie Chan in this spot, but one Mark of the Lotus away from blowing the opponent out.
What to do?
Lance Carrier doesn't quite do enough. I guess it is Mark of Yasharaj. I think you're right.
Well, I like the Argent, the Lance Carrier that is with Argent Squire. I think it's an okay line of play, but you're using up the coin, which may be okay since you're getting Bloodcell Corsair plus Mark of Yasharj on the following turn. So all you have to do is dodge a 3-drop from the Priest and you could still get back into the game. Because that 3-1 Argent Squire is tough to handle without pain.
The hard thing for Jackie now is kind of having to try and play around Northshire Cleric. In an ideal world, he does not want to allow Lifecoach to draw any cards, but it doesn't look like that's in any way possible. He's going to go with Mark of Yasharaj, Coin, Argent Squire here. Okay, just making his board go as wide as possible, but unfortunately, Lifecoach is now going to try and do something about his bad hand.
Yeah, but the thing is, if there's a heal happening here, right, by Lifecoach, if you're Jackie Chan, that means there's no 3-drop. If there's no 3-drop, you can catch up. Unfortunately, better than that is a powered shield on top of all this thing, where the health total of this taunt minion is even higher than you expected it to be, so you're going to be fighting for that board even harder.
Shadow Word Pain as well. I think that's better than healing this turn, because you can just deal with the egg without giving...
I agree. I mean, you don't want to be giving him anything else than what he's got at this point. And you can protect your Cleric behind the 2-forward taunt. So again, very, very nice position there for Lifecoach. Do you consider popping the shield on the 1-1? I think you just might, to prevent like a buff. You know, a buff that doesn't lead to damage 1-1.
Yep, I agree. Lifecoach definitely agrees as well. It just makes sense. And there's Mark of the Lotus for Jack. Is it too late? No, he still definitely gets some value here. He gets patches. He gets 2 Bloodcell cultists.
He can wipe the
Corsair?
board and keep 2/3s on the board. He can go like Blood Cell, Lotus, kill the 2/3 with Patches and the Squire, and then keep the 2/3s alive to use with the Lance Carrier. But that's going to get shut down by any 4-drop in the deck. So, yeah, not the spot you want to be in. Could still work out, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's time for Jackie to start making his all-in play thing. It's going to be turn 4, and he's going to be to use against Lifecoach. Lifecoach does not have a play this turn, but Blackman Corruptor next turn is going to be a very solid way of coming back onto the board.
Yeah, Jackie Chan is going to be fine. He's going to need to find...
Wow.
Oh, okay. So now he's not anticipating this.
Oh, unrewarded.
The cheer on the Lifecoach in that spot. Jackie Chan, like, you really did this? You really did this to me right now, Lifecoach.
Although, Lifecoach has just given Jackie a 3/6 minion by making that play, assuming both of these buffs go off.
Well, do you ever do you double buff to prevent a 3/5 from getting a value trade, or do you make a Panther first?
That's interesting.
And simply buff it? Because a 4/3 with 2/2/3s and a 3/5 and a 2/5, like how much more valuable is that compared to just double buffing and killing the minion onto the board without losing anything?
It's tricky,
obviously.
hard, right? Obviously, with Cast Division, we can see the Blackman Corruptor there. Panther, even with 3 health, is just killed by that, and then the Technician can kill one of the 2/3s. Jackie's actually going to go for the double buff. He's playing around that, and he's going to kill the minion as well. So Corruptor kills one of these.
And then gets value off the rest.
Yeah.
All right, Jackie, you're going to look for... Here you need Fel Rage, you need Swipe. If you play Nourish, my friend, you're going to need it. If you get Defensive Argus, you're going to need some help. Let's get some value trades. You can do this, right? Totally.
You think Jackie still has a chance there? I just, from what I'm seeing, it looks like he's just out of resource.
Mark if you charge off the top on that Raven. I agree. I mean, he's obviously out of resources, right? But the deck could get something completely nutty.
Okay. We're about to see 1 drops. These are actually not bad right now. Lifecoach has 1 spare mana, so like I feel as though you just take Raven. Yeah.
That 3-drop off the top was so crucial for G2.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was such an important draw. If they hadn't gotten it, I think this might be a little bit more difficult, as they would have been able to stabilize probably, but they would be a lot lower on health, and you know, a single Soul of the Forest would then crush them. But this is definitely where you want to be, and this card right there is going to solidify a lead that Lifecoach already had. Make FADE2KARMA feel really awful.
Yeah, I think that that Holy Nova ends the game right there. I think because Lifecoach anyway. Finley, he could essentially go for a life tap, start drawing 2 cards per turn, but Lifecoach is going to end up killing Jackie very, very quickly if he goes for life tap.
There isn't even the option. Get a bunch of stuff. If you keep getting Stoneclaw, maybe one day you reach critical mass, but I don't anticipate that ever occurring under the current circumstances. So the mighty Druid from Jackie Chan is going to make its way to the bottom, and G2 will go up. And now we're 3-4, still in favor of F2K, but no longer one-sided completely.
No, not one-sided at all. Now F2K are in the position that G2 are in right at the start of this series. F2K now need to deal with Dragon Priest, and as we saw from G2, it wasn't the easiest thing to do. F2K still have Hunter left. Obviously, we established that's a bad matchup. They do have Reno Lock, though, which, at least in my experience, is one of the better matchups against Dragon Priest.
Right, which is what I anticipate Alliestrasza to bring out here. On the flip side, I'm not sure how experienced, some players play Reno Lock because they understand it's a good deck, but it takes quite a bit of experience to play. So it comes down to how well she's going to pilot it, because if she's good at Reno Lock, that Dragon Priest is going to be an easy ride to the top, right? It's just going to be very simple to take care of. You dispatch it, move on, and then face off against the last deck that they have remaining. But if that Priest is able to, just navigate its way around the Reno Lock matchup a little bit, like it's done in the past, we've seen it in ESL Trinity, then maybe there could be an upset as far as matchups go.
Well, it definitely can happen. Ali does have the support of both Jackie and Senfglas behind her. As I mentioned earlier, I know that Jackie's been playing a rather interesting arena. Either way, he has been practicing the deck. I've got no doubt Senfglas has been as well. So, and it's kind of the last hurdle. Once you deal with the priest, it's just Hunter left, and that's not necessarily something you should feel too worried about if you're FADE2KARMA.
Yeah, but it is, it is a life coach behind the hunter wheel, and life coach is a player who popularized, I think, the Sunshine Hunter version that you all are probably not too familiar with, but you know it as a mid-range hunter, to put it that way, where you just play beasts on curve and you happen to win that way. So maybe he's going to be bringing that variant, or going for the more traditional of recent memories, Secret Hunter, where you just play all the secrets, try to mind game your opponent and steal a win by confusing them effectively.
Hunter can certainly beat Reno Lock, so it's not like FADE2KARMA is going to just steamroll the G2 here, but I don't know. I believe that the Warlock has a strong chance to beat the Priest. And
the Hunter, consequently, like I think it's something like a 50-50 at best, and it's not. And we're talking mid-range, because the moment you slip into like Secret Hunter, it's probably less likely that they trigger your secrets.
Right, like I'm talking Freezing Trap into Savannah High Main here.
Right, it's like something crazy.
Yeah,
that just works.
But can I mean, no matter how good life coach is with Hunter, with it 3 times, it's a tough call.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be down to the Hunter deck. He wants to win with this Priest now and win again afterwards. Because F2K's at the moment, they have a win with Priest, a win with Mage, a win with Druid. Now they've got Hunter, Warrior, Warlock. So while the Warrior probably wins against the Priest, and this might be what Ali ends up playing right now, the Warlock is also one of the options that's open.
Right. I mean, historically, Warlock, Handlock, whatever type of late game controlly Warlocks we've had in the past, they've always been favored against the Priest. And I think that's mostly due to the fact that they've got the ability to drop Lord Jaraxxus, and Priests just cannot keep up with that card.
Yeah, there's no burst at the moment. You can definitely get it from, Draconian Operative, when you sometimes get it to sneak some Power Overwhelming, Soulfires, and shenanigans, but not the most consistent way to do it. And the Warlock is going to be coming out for FADE2KARMA. Alliestrasza is on the wheel with a Voidwalker in there. Does this remind you of anything fancy that you alluded to?
I think Jackie was running Voidcaller, but that being said, I don't think that alone means that it's some weird different Reno Lock. A lot of Reno Locks are running Voidwalker at the moment just because it's a nice way of preventing the early patches turns. It's just okay to drop on the board on turn 1, along with Mistress of Mixtures, whereas the Reno Lock doesn't really have that many other cards to play on turn 1. It's better than Possessed Villager, let's put it that way.
All right, Life Coach with the Dragon Opener finds something to do on turn 1. Even has a turn 2 if he opts for it.
Yeah, Twilight Whelp seems good. Powered Shield is a great card as well. Just to get through that deck, pick up the answers. And you're right, if he wants to, he can coin out Batman Technique. It's actually really tricky for Reno Lock to... when you think Reno Lock board clears, you think Demon Wrath and Hellfire. Neither of those deal 5 damage.
Yeah, you're really looking at Fellfire Potion, which isn't played anymore unless this is a very unique list. Life tapping again in the early stages of the game, still correct to make sure you bury your opponent under removal once the mid game hits. But this is a card again. Life Coach picking up a 2-drop again in this game, which is fantastic to make sure he stays ahead. And if he had played the Ooze here, he would have been punished, as there could have been a Wormus, there could have been a Powered Shield, and this would have put him put F2K, very far behind.
This is one of the reasons that FADE2KARMA, or that Reno Locks like to tap on turn 1 and turn 2, is because most of them do run Mountain Giant nowadays. And if Ali decides to tap this turn, if she decides that she can take that slow approach, then we are going to see a turn 4 8/8 from her, which is slightly better than the Shaman's turn 4 7/7.
Yeah, but how well does it fare against a board that is spread very, very wide? From the Priest.
Well, over time, it's going to do okay. The problem for Ali will be if Life Coach picks up Shadow Word Death. FADE2KARMA were very, very good at picking up Shadow Word. They needed it. So Ali kind of needs to hope that she doesn't get a taste of their own medicine.
Alright, well, no Shadow Word Death now, so if this giant hits the board, that could be a big thing. Now, I wonder if G2 expects FADE2KARMA to be playing MC Tech with the Dirty Rat. That's a version of Reno Log that we've seen a bit less of, but as you said, if there's no combo, that seems like a natural direction to go.
Yeah. We haven't seen any hints towards combo just yet. Twilight Drake, obviously another card. We're not seeing it in Ali's hand just yet, but that's a very strong card against Priest, as most dragons with 4 attack tend to be. Here's the Mountain Giant, so...
No Shadow Word Death.
Yep. And it's not there.
No Shadow Word Death. And now you've got to worry about Shadow Flame, right? So you don't want to extend too much onto the board. But there's very little you can do about it. Committing too many resources into killing this giant seems a little bit ambitious. So I would like to see a more passive play.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he even has the damage to kill the giant. Like, there's no tool in his hand that allows him to deal that final point to Ali's Mountain Giant. So everything's probably going face here. The question is, how much does he want to extend? And as you said, Shadow Flame is a factor. Mind Control Tech is also a factor to consider. Because with this board, if the Mountain Giant lives, hits like Ali plays Mind Control Tech and then kills another minion, suddenly her board is a lot better than Lifecoach's.
I mean, if this giant only gets to kill the 2/4 before another minion is picked up, or Shadow Word Death is picked up, that is, for Lifecoach, I mean, this might not work out. So maybe you just need to go wide and hope there's no MC Tech and nothing else.
Oh.
I mean, you wouldn't play around MC Tech in most current builds of Reno Lock, from my understanding. So as you mentioned, you know, playing around it just seems a little bit incorrect. But right now, there's going to be a punish. There will be a slight punish.
She can even drop a Swampooze this turn if she wants to really put as much on the board as possible.
Yeah, Sun Fury as well. If if there's some fear of a lethal coming up, Sun Fury is a possibility.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I hadn't actually noticed how low Ali's health total. So alarm bells are going to start.
I think. Oh man, whoa. That health count, that's a lot of stuff to... That's the best minion for Sun Fury if you were going to drop it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like in general it's the second best minion. Like, you should have preferred to see the Drake get stolen, but you're right. Like, Sun Fury Protector now looks incredibly strong. Dragonfire Potion can't even be played yet from Lifecoach, so there's no threat of that Drake dealing with the whole board. I guess Holy Nova could happen, but it's like Holy Nova's not that devastating.
I mean, Holy Nova does not kill your giant unless you lose the Drake to it, so I'll take that.
Yeah.
You know, if they want to use Nova and lose their entire board with it, I'll take the trade. A bit of an in-between play here. Tries to protect the 3/5 from the Drake trade. I can see how
death,
that
but it's just too
out.
late.
I don't know. It's a really good death right now. This is one of the best. Like, it's not the best time to get it, as one turn earlier was, of course, better. But it's allowing you to use your Shadow Word Pain on top of it to clean up a good chunk of the board. Feels bad to not have found it one turn earlier, but at least you have it.
Okay, so Lifecoach finally dealing with that giant, taking full control of the board here. But the problem is, obviously, Ali is the late game deck here. Lifecoach isn't, so he needs to find this remaining 11 damage really, really quickly. If Reno comes down, this game is going to be a whole lot harder for Lifecoach.
Yeah, it's already hard enough as the giant managed to get value and not get killed early in the game. But Ali right now... I mean, Sylvanas is a nightmare for Priest to deal with. I would be inclined to just slam her. That's my general inclination, but if you want to get Kazakus out, I would also not necessarily dislike it. I've just got a huge, you know, tendency to play Sylvanas against Priest as soon as I can. And Tomb is out of Priest decks, so yeah, they have nothing left.
Unless it's Reno Priest, which, again, isn't seen very often at all. And Ali knows 100% that this is... There's no Entomb. Yeah, Sylvanas seemed like a really strong play there. And Lifecoach, once again, just having to dig through his deck.
One of the cool things if you're Lifecoach, though, is that if your minion doesn't kill Sylvanas, then she doesn't steal anything. So at best, she's a value card in some spots where she doesn't really get to steal anything, and you can delay dealing with her. But, you know, your opponent's on 11 health. It's not like, you know, he's on 4 health, where you can set up some kind of funky lethal with Brand Corruptor. Like there's nothing. He's not low enough on health where he can get the damage out.
You wish.
Talon Priest with an okay draw there from the Shadowwood. Ali can't necessarily just suicide Sylvanas and steal something else, so Lifecoach is able to develop to put just a little bit more damage into Alliestrasza's face here, and hopefully have a minion survive long enough to deal even more damage next turn.
Oh yeah, this is the anti-aggro Reno lock with Senjin and the Voidwalker. This is the very anti-patches-ish deck.
Maybe she is running Sargoth then.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if that top 10 Sargoth as one of the big threats in the deck.
I guess they do run Sargoth and Jiraxxus. I don't remember the list exactly.
That's good. Yeah. Ali definitely is feeling like she looks really familiar with the deck based on the way she's been playing this. It's, you know, always toying around with your health total is one of those things that Reno Lock needs to do to be played at maximum efficiency. And also, right now there's the option of a life tap. It's open. You can go Senjin afterwards with the Voidwalker. And you can still get decent trades. So playing it slowly, playing it quickly is really based on your own personal preference. There's nothing wrong with any of the lines. So it's down to Reno, Jiraxxus. Yeah, it's going to be really tough for Lifecoach to get out of this one.
Yeah, it's just generally looking really, really good for Ali right now. Yes, there is a Shadowwood Pain that can... yes, Lifecoach can put 2 more damage into the face, but he's still 7 off, and very, very soon, if there's no Reno, Jiraxxus is going to come down and heal Ali back up to 15. Sylvanas is also now more awkward than ever. I kind of wonder if there's any world in which Lifecoach actually uses Cabal Talon Priest to buff Sylvanas. Can you even do that? Or is it just a friendly minion? I think it's just a friendly minion, actually.
Friendly minions you can use, yeah, to buff. You could heal it, technically, I guess, if you don't want it to die. So Northshire, and then look for Corruptor to then get a lethal off the top of Bran, I guess, over a few turns.
I think that's the play, yeah. I think, so it's Northshire, hit the Sylvanas to prevent a steal.
And then Shadowword Pain to...
Yeah.
I mean, I like that line. I think it's the most likely line to work out in the end. It sounds kind of silly to say, but it's the only way I could see this game not end in Lifecoach being completely trashed.
Oh!
And he's going to go for the Sylvanas kill, hoping that the dragon does not die. Still gets to play the Northshire and buff it, so we'll probably be able to get some card draw out of it over the next few turns. But I like your line of play, and that right there is a nail in the coffin that Lifecoach was already dropped in by his teammates. He's stuck with Hunter afterwards. This is it, right? This priest is probably going down if things don't get any better off the top of the deck. Netherspire Historian with like double Nefarian sack pack that Jiraxxus. Is that what we're doing? How crazy must we get to win this game?
Oh wow. I mean, I don't think that FADE2KARMA ever played Jiraxxus. Because if we've seen something like, if you've seen Nefarian, then you play around it if you're in a position where you're going to win anyway. It's interesting that they've gone for 1 mana. I guess they just want to really push what they currently have on the board.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me because they had the option, of course, of just going for the Reno after a life tap, and that would have, you know, healed them back up to full, and that's great and all. But they don't feel like they need to do that, so they're not worried about some kind of Corruptor play. They don't want to get their health too low, and if they played the tap, then they had to Reno it just to be safe.
Cool. That's fine. That's the most damage that Lifecoach can come up with this turn, isn't it? I think it's just Bran, Blackwind Corruptor. That's 6. The Cleric has now been frozen anyway, so that it is only 6. In theory, no matter what Lifecoach has, he's 3 off lethal, and he does actually have the best possible cards to play now.
And he can heal to draw, so we're not completely done. I guess Draconic Operative could also represent some form of damage, right? If something gets drawn that deals damage,
sure,
like a Hellfire, you know, that could set up a lethal over a few turns. It's just really difficult to imagine. If there's Potion of Madness, stealing Bran with Potion of Madness is a way to enable a Corruptor play.
Yep.
For 6 without paying the full mana cost of Bran. So if you go Potion of Madness, Corruptor, and you have like a leftover like a Hellfire, that's 9. And you have just enough mana to do it.
Wow, and yeah, if the Northshire Cleric wasn't frozen this turn, and Lifecoach had Potion of Madness rather than Bran in his hand, that would have been lethal.
Yeah. Like, there are a few ways in which you can still win the game. It's just really, really, really weird. And it's going to take a few turns. So he's opting to kill Bran to avoid, you know, Earthering Farseer shenanigans, so everything goes wrong. Just want to make sure nothing does.
Lifecoach isn't even in the position where he can hope to get. Well, I mean, he can hope. He can hope to get Jiraxxus from Draconid Operative, but as he can now see, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
Interesting that Ali does decide to go for Jiraxxus over Reno Jackson there. I still feel as though Reno Jackson may have been safer, but it looks like she wants to lock out this game as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I don't know. It's, again, it feels risky to me, but it's a card that when you're ahead on board like now is oftentimes correct to play. It doesn't lose to very much, but I felt like Reno as a 4-6 often didn't get contested either. So one of those moves that felt very, very safe to me in the grand scheme of things.
I'm not entirely sure which potion Ali got. Maybe she ended up getting armor and as safer to play Jiraxxus. Though there is still, as you said, that completely crazy coach where he somehow ends up with Sacrificial Pact. However unlikely that may be. Maybe FADE2KARMA just decide they never play around that.
I mean, nobody really plays around it, but you should if there is nothing else that's going to kill you, which in this spot I'm not sure is correct. But it certainly feels like there's very little that could have gotten to you otherwise. All right, so we're going to see a heal in the Northshire here. Get started on the card draw, maybe Fetcher. No operative. No. I like an operative if I'm in that spot. Okay.
It's starting.
Are we doing this? Is this our chance?
I think, I think Bran into Netherspire Historian is the only play here.
All right, Nefarian needs to come out, and Nefarian needs to do his stuff.
Or,
I mean, hell.
Or does Lifecoach still think that Black Queen Corruptor could win the game? Maybe he holds on to Bran for that. I don't know where he gets the rest of the damage from, though.
Potion of Madness would give you 2 more, so it wouldn't really do all that much.
Once upon a time.
And that is a Chromagus.
The dream is dead.
It would be amazing if you could guarantee a card draw, but again, you'd have to get Netherspite or Operative to really get extra value out of it, and the game, based on the way it's going right now, doesn't look like it's going to last all that long. There's going to be some protecting of the minions on the board to make sure that damage can be dealt. Bran Corruptor is still very potent.
Okay, Dirty Rat. Probably not a card that Ali needs to worry about. Oh, maybe she does. The problem with playing Jiraxxus as well is that her max 15. So no matter what she plays, there's always a little bit of a risk there that Lifecoach can overcome the board and just deal a little bit of damage. That potion
is a good play as well. This is just a very solid board development play. You get to play everything you have, and your opponent's probably not going to be in too good a spot afterwards. Alright, Lifecoach, what does he need off the top here? Powered Shield on a Chromagus and do something crazy? Okay, maybe we're down to this, where you have to hope it's a combo lock and you can kill them with their own cards, but based on what we've seen so far, it doesn't look like a combo lock at all.
I guess he could even just be going for information at this stage. To see as many of these cards, as its last hero standing, see as many of these cards as possible and know what to play around in the next game. But he's definitely not picked up anything that wins the game now.
Yeah. No amount of information as Hunter is going to help you. I'm afraid. I'm sure it would in a vacuum, but based on what we've seen so far, no AoE left unless there's a Nova off the top, Dragonfire Potion included in that list. We're down to the wire here. I feel like there would have to be a huge misstep by Alliestrasza for this to go wrong and in favor of Lifecoach. But this is what the matchup is meant to be like when you're the Reno lock, where you just get Jiraxxus at some point, get those big Infernals. You can choose to postpone Jiraxxus if you feel like that's a thing. You know, you don't need to get it out as soon as possible if you're already ahead and you can win by traditional means. But if you're ahead and you get to play Jiraxxus and you know there's no burst in the opponent's deck, then by all means, have at it. There is unlikely going to be something to stop you.
Yeah, and this is a disgusting turn from Alliestrasza here. Finding the extra damage she needed with the Abyssal Enforcer. Not worrying too much. 211, if she needs to, she can heal up with Siphon Soul or Reno Jackson, and she knows there's no lethal from Lifecoach this turn.
Maga's powered shield. Is there even a powered shield left? That would not even be sufficient.
I don't-
Historian.
I don't think there is a powered shield left. I feel like I've seen them both played this game. Unless I'm thinking about the last one.
No Nefarian in sight.
The dream is over.
Yeah, nothing really came up.
It's times like this that I'm sure Lifecoach wishes he'd tech Deoxyran into his Dragon Priest. Because that would be another chance of getting...
Yeah, this was a pretty big blowout. Now, there is still no lethal on Alliestrasza's side because there's 3 damage off. Even if everything goes face and Hellfire comes out, we're still a little bit shy of the full damage. We're looking at 23. So this game's going to go on 1 more turn, and that's probably going to be the end of it. I quite like the deck list that FADE2KARMA put together. You know, I want to say a few weeks back, that was the standard Reno lock, where combo was phasing out because the decks were too aggressive.
Yeah.
But this is the type of matchup it was aimed at beating.
And I really liked this play too. I liked dropping Reno Jackson here. It felt like there's no reason not to. You're almost guaranteed to win turn anyway. So why not just play Reno? Heal yourself up to full. Make yourself as safe as possible. And now G2 is restricted to only Lifecoach's Hunter.
So I'll just put it out there. This was a crazy upset because we expected G2 to just do it. Do G2 things, come in as a team, and just wreck. Right off the bat, Thjis opens up a Paladin, loses to Priest. Then RDU queues up Rogue, thinking it's Priest, I'm going to have it easy. Loses to Priest. Then Warrior comes out from RDU, wins against Priest finally. So that Priest took 2 classes off of G2, which are classes that the players who played them were actually very proficient with. You know, Paladin in Thjis' hand is a deck that I would love to beat. You know, just make sure that you're the Paladin if Thjis is playing. Don't give it to someone else in the team. And Rogue, of course, RDU, probably the player who plays the most of it on the team. Both lost to a measly Dragon Priest. I don't know. I don't know, man.
Well, maybe not so measly in Senfglas's hands, at least. You're right. G2 was definitely the favorite to win. But you know, I said right from the start, I'm cheering on my former team, and looks like we might take this.
Yeah, I think the Hunter is not going to be enough against the remaining classes, right? There's a mirror match coming up. Senfglas also has Hunter if he has to go to it. Ali has the Warrior and Warlock. And if the Warlock doesn't do it, for whatever reason, the Warrior will. I mean, the matchup is not even close. But if the Warrior doesn't do it, there's still a mirror match left with Senfglas with the Hunter in the back pocket.
Yeah, it's a huge uphill battle for Lifecoach here. One that I'm sure he's not feeling, actually, because he does know the deck. He knows the deck's weaknesses, and he knows the deck's strengths. And I'm sure he does not believe that the deck's strengths are beating Renolock and Warrior one after the other.
No, I can't imagine anybody who's played a reasonable amount of Hunter. Nonetheless, though, you know, there's always the faint hope that Hunter can take it against the 3 decks. That would be quite a story and probably solidify G2 as the greatest team ever. I mean, I can't even right now if they win. But it seems like they're going to be playing a Hunter list, which as of late, tends to include Ragnaros as the top end. So they tend to play a very mid-rangey style, especially Lifecoach, which might prove okay if they get the curve out up against a Renolock.
Yeah, I mean, if they were ever going to win this matchup, it had to be mid. Secret Paladin just wouldn't do much, though it does run Cloaked Huntress as well. It's just a kind of later game-oriented version of the deck. Unfortunately for Lifecoach, that does mean he doesn't have any secrets in his opening hand here, so that Cloaked Huntress is looking like it's just a 3-mana 3/4.
Yeah, it often, I mean, this is not a deck that aims to just go, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's usually starting the curve at 3 in terms of minions for the most part, unless you play your account for Secret Keeper. And then it has like decent mid-rangey stuff. We see Infested Wolf, we see the Highmane, we see the Ragnaros, which are all cards that Hunter plays when they're looking to play the control game.
Yeah.
Or a very slow mid-range game, that is.
The next few turns are looking very, very nice for Lifecoach, actually. He's got the... gonna grab Huffer, which is probably the worst outcome. I was almost expecting a Huntress there just because it's a safe 3/4, actually.
Sure, it's kind of weak to Shadow Bolt, but yeah, it would have been a very good play. In this case, the Huffer just denied itself with the health gain that was at the end of that sequence. So very safe play here. We're just going to play that farce here, make sure we have some form of board control. No Ragnaros in the deck for Barnes to bring out, no high main, so...
No high main, yeah. Ouch.
What are we looking to bring here? I mean, there's not
Kylie
much.
grandmother, I guess.
Yeah, if there's a huge toad, do it.
Oh, rat pack, okay. So he gets one rat from this, right?
Possessed villager. In
It is, it's a
is
possessed
basically what
villager.
this is.
Possessed villager that summons a beast, I guess. If that means anything.
Yeah, I'm kind of liking this. The Moral Coil is going to give Alliestrasza, of course, some card draw, which is all fine. No big threat. The Shadow Bolt is doing amazing work as usual against the Hunter 3-drops to 4-drops. Tends to be one of the better times to play them. And again, Lifecoach picks up a Huntress, no secrets in hand. It's not as though the secrets have much merit or value, so I don't mind him, you know, not having secrets until he's got a bow equipped.
Yeah.
So that can wait.
So yeah, I guess Lifecoach does just drop the Infested Wolf. Oh no, he's going to go with
Come midnight.
means he can squeeze in the hero power as well. Very awkward turn 5 there. It's situations like these where Stranglethorn Tiger actually becomes a reasonable card. But unfortunately for Lifecoach, he's just having to play a 3-drop.
Yeah. Lucky for him, though, Alliestrasza is not sitting on a Sylvanas, as we can see in the hand. Otherwise, that would make the high main turn a little bit more clunky, had that been the case. But again, hero power maximization in the matchup is pretty important, just because you're forcing, of course, the earliest possible Reno, from which you can sometimes transition. It's not easy. It's not easy to get this Warlock down, but with a hand like this, it could be done. And we're talking double high main with Ragnaros, one of the strongest possible hands to transition into, you know, a finisher. I don't know if the deck plays Call of the Wild even as a one of. I have, however, seen some Hunter decks that top off at N'Zoth. So
Wow.
I don't know if that's played, but Orange was piloting one of these lists a while back, and the idea was that you just play Infested Wolf in the deck, Kindly Grandmother, Savannah High Main, and you just play N'Zoth at the end. When you're
And even
done.
Rat Pack, you know? So actually, it seems quite likely because we saw Kindly Grandmother in the Mulligan. We've seen Rat Pack from Barnes. And as you say, 2 Savannah High Mains and Infested Wolf. N'Zoth actually would do some serious work here. In 5 turns' time.
Yeah, it takes a while, but usually that's the way you want to set it up. So that potion, quite good.
Either way, Savannah High Main here is almost definitely coming down. I don't remember a turn 6 ever where a Hunter's chose not to drop Savannah High Main.
Yeah, the consideration would be like Grandmother and Infested Wolf instead to try to bait out some AoE, but I think High Main is just too powerful because you can still get that turn a little bit later with an extra hero power on turn 8, where you go Wolf, Kindly, hero power, and then you still get the transition. So I'm all for that play, and it looks like we're gonna get a sheep.
There you
And
go.
a few minions. Ugh.
Trust me.
If there was going to be a counter to Savannah High, 5 mana Kazaka's Potion to polymorph a single minion does seem to be the answer. There is a second Savannah High Main on the way, but Ali is going to have an easier time dealing with that with more presence on the board and more mana.
Alright, so we've got the High Main that can come down again to keep on putting the pressure. There's also the option of Infested Wolf, Animal Companion, which if it's Leok, trades into the Mistress of Mixtures, and establishes a decent minion to contest the 3-3. I wouldn't mind that either. I think it's okay. But you're slowing down your development of High Main, so it's really up to you. There you go. There we go.
Okay. So, assuming he runs it, which I don't even know if it's correct to assume this, but assuming that Lifecoach does run, he really is going to need to play that on turn 10. He needs to play it before a Twisting Nether appears from Ali, really. And okay, it does get the Death Rattle, but I don't think it's quite going to be enough because Ali can just clear up the Death Rattles with Abyssal Enforcer.
So many
Yeah, I think at this point what you're looking for is an Azad that comes out after the Twisting Nether. So you want to
Okay.
be forcing it first. Something like High Main, Kindly Grandmother, they pop
Okay.
it, and they have to Nether the following turn. That's the hope, right?
Yeah, that's
Where
seems
they just
stronger.
have to use it early and then you develop. But yeah, no matter how this is spinned, it's looking very difficult for the Hunter, just in terms of card advantage even.
For now, Lifecoach does have Ragnaros next turn, but there is a Siphon Soul in Alliestrasza's hand, so although it could delay damage to, or clear one minion, it's not quite going to be enough. There is a Stranglethorn Tiger there after all, just not coming on turn 5 like it's supposed to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is this feels like a Sunshine Secret Hunter, right? Where you just play good beasts and you hope that they stick and that they do their job. Not trying to do anything fancy in the deck. Some secrets, the best ones ideally.
Yeah, though we haven't seen one yet, have we, from Lifecoach this game? Which means, actually, Lifecoach could be in the unfortunate position where he starts to get secrets on, really needs to pick up some other cards. That being said, he does have a very high value hand, so if he were to pick up a secret next turn, it probably wouldn't be the end of the world, because he can still just drop Jaime.
Yeah, he could still play for the... Oh, that's actually an interesting moment there. Killing a minion feels like that was your best option, but if you want to force some kind of early healing, this may be better.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, Lifecoach is really going to struggle to beat Reno. So, I can't imagine the face damage being that impactful here.
Yeah, the use is being kept for the bow. Kill command would not surprise Alliestrasza in any way. Yeah, Siphon Soul is just an amazing answer to this. It's... okay. Going back up to full with a Siphon. Taking it slowly, drawing as much as possible.
I guess, what are you considering? Worst case scenario from life? Minion, kill command, hero power. So at 21 health, Ali is completely safe from any kind of lethal. I guess Call of the Wild is a card that could potentially be in Lifecoach's deck, but it doesn't do anything here. It kills Voidwalker, and that's it.
Stranglethorn, even though appealing, does not let you like get very good trades on the following turn because you only kill one minion. So you'd have to play the Secret Keeper and the Cloaked Huntress anyway, which means that you're developing a minion that dies to the board, which you don't want to do. So instead of giving value for no reason, you just play the Cloaked Huntress and the Jaime and hope something good comes of this.
But
yeah, probably marginally better.
Ali has a lot of options for how she can put a stop to this Jaime. It doesn't look like she can deal with these. However, she can drop Mountain Giant and face the Shambler, giving her 2 8/8s, one of which with Taunt. And that seems like a pretty good way of putting a stop to this.
Yeah, I really like that line of play, actually, because you can follow it up with an extra life tap if you feel like it at the end of the sequence. So I like that a lot. It's pretty solid. And there's very little chance that the Hunter is able to go through the both of your 8/8s. The thing is, there's no combo, right? So hitting face with the 8/8s doesn't matter. So truly what you're setting up is an 8/8 taunt, right? Yeah. That's what you're looking for here. It's just the taunt value.
I think that she may have even just considered Twilight Drake there. Just calculating, is it possible for Lifecoach to kill me? Coming to the conclusion that it's probably better to play the 8/8 taunt here. Still going to get like a 4/11 or 4/12. No, 4/10, I think, Twilight Drake next turn. Yeah, if she wants it. So there's no hurry to play that card. The question is, when does she need to Reno? And she does have Refreshment Vendor in hand, so the answer is probably...
almost never for now. Like,
yeah.
There's no burst in Hunter, that's the trick, right? There's no way you're going to get double quick shot at kill commanded out of nowhere, unless you have some semblance of a board with a bow equipped. It's really rare that that kind of scenario occurs, so I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Tiger is a threat, for certain. A little bit of an awkward one, because she can't get rid of it. Ali can't guarantee that there's no damage coming to her face next turn, but she has just seen a kill command. Ragnaros is gone. She's got to be starting to feel pretty safe now.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Senjin in the hand, and we've got the Refreshment Vendor. So you could Refreshment Vendor, go up to 21. Senjin, that sets you up with another extra 5 health on the board that the opponent has to handle, and you're probably okay. And this is why Hunter has been phased out of the metagame, really, because Reno decks really just grind it out, as it doesn't get to just burst people down anymore, unless they get a really insane secret opener that goes their way. And on the other side, what sometimes happens is, even if you don't face off against Torino and you get an aggro deck. Aggro decks just race you faster than you race them. So frankly, what are you doing with that deck?
Tundra Rhino. So this implies to me that Lifecoach is actually running Call of the Wild, because I'm not sure why you would run this without that.
Scavenging hyena shenanigans.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
We haven't seen any, alley cats or anything along those lines.
This is at least something from Lifecoach here. He can hit with the Kylie Grandmother. He can then hit with that minion, play the tiger, hit with the tiger. I mean, it's just not enough. No amount of damage that Lifecoach can come out with here is enough. He can deal with the Mountain Giant, and that's about it.
Well, he can also ignore it if he chooses to, right? But playing to his outs and just hoping that connecting 5 to face right now puts the opponent on 7. There's no Reno, can't life tap because if it misses, he dies, and then you can just get some random win. I mean, again, playing to the outs, right? Because if you trade, you automatically lose. If you don't trade, you sometimes win because the opponent still needs to find an extra bit of damage, and he's not there yet. So, yeah, this is actually a very good play there. G2 just going all in, saying, you know what? We have to commit to this. If we trade at all, we just automatically throw the game. In this spot, Reno comes in to save the day. Minions will be traded into or ignored. Doesn't really matter. Dr. Zoom is a thing.
Dr. Zoom, love it. Love it.
And Lifecoach goes down alongside him in the sinking ship. G2 also loses, and F2K FADE2KARMA takes out the entire roster of G2 in this best of 11. And the Hunter, not enough to make it work. And the Warlock, again, getting 2 wins at the very end there for both of the series that we cast today. We'll have an interview probably. I'm not 100%.
I mean, 6-3 against any team is an incredible achievement. But against G, as we've been saying all day, one of the best, if not the best team in Hearthstone right now. Astounding. So FADE2KARMA are probably going to go to bed feeling pretty good tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those feelings where you come in an event as a team and you haven't really made crazy team appearances before, and you go up against what's considered the best team in Hearthstone, and right off the bat, you take out one of their best decks that they had in the previous team, like Paladin's out, Rogue is out, then the Warrior dies, the Druid dies off, and you do it with such a, like, the Jackie Chan Druid is kind of the highlight of this entire series for me because it won the game in about 5 turns. And we were like, okay, this is going to be a Jade versus Jade. We're going to take our time. It's going to ramp up, and somebody's going to race ahead. GG. No. Right off the bat, double 1-drop. Patches Druid just wins the game and steals the Jade Druid away, which would have been tough to beat as Reno Lock. So that Druid needed to make that happen.
Yeah, it was quite an incredible performance. But it was a vital. Again, great performances from FADE2KARMA with the Priest, with the Reno Lock. And with the Mage. The Mage did pretty good too, if I remember rightly. Dealt with the Warrior.
Yeah. I really wish we could have seen the N'Zoth on G2 side, because that N'Zoth, usually that list tends to run N'Zoth with Tundra Rhino to get like a crazy amount of burst to finish off the game, and it can also sometimes sneak past a Nether if it forced one very early through Rat Pack shenanigans and Infested Wolf and the big minions that require an AoE. But unfortunately, the Hunter is doing what we expected it to, which is very little. Now, I'm trying to figure out if we're getting the interview coming up, or
with
if
Hunter
straight to a break.
With Hunter, that N'Zoth comes up with a lot of tokens, right? Like when you think of the big bad wolf, the rats that come from Rat Pack, the hyenas, like we're talking basically 2 full boards here from N'Zoth. It's definitely an interesting tech and possibly one of Hunter's possible ways of coming back into the meta, although it doesn't seem quite good enough. And poor Hunter is just in a pretty poor spot right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're really not favored in any matchup at the moment, and it looks like Hunter might be their best matchup, where you just face off in a mirror match and hope that your secrets are better than theirs. Well, we did see some crazy mind games earlier today where Complexity managed to nail a freezing trap early that Team Liquid misplayed around, rather, expecting something else entirely, because the play was so quick that they thought it had to be explosive trap, and it turned out to be freezing, which skewed things a little bit. Ali, I think you've joined us on Discord.
Hello,
right?
yes, I'm here.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
So a few questions, of course, because you've just beat G2. How does it feel to beat what's considered the best team in Hearthstone right now?
Honestly, it's pretty amazing. We're all just kind of sitting here like, wow, did we really just take down G2? So yeah, it feels very, very good. Very, very happy about it, obviously.
So how do you feel about your lineup going into this? You've taken the strategy that we've seen, I think it was Complexity take as well, where you've kind of put the best decks together. You haven't spread them out too thin.
Right.
That was something that Liquid did. They spread out their best decks so that the other team was actually able to ban all three. How do you feel about your lineup, and what do you think of this?
I think we did a really good job setting up how we put it. I think that Jackie's Egg Druid was kind of a surprise, but the intention was to take their Druid down with Egg Druid. And I think it worked out really well. So yeah, I'm happy with how we kind of set it up, and I was happy with our bans and everything. So
if that was your intention with the Egg Druid, you certainly pulled that off.
yeah, yeah, we were hoping that it would work. Let's just put it like that. It was kind of different. Yeah, it was kind of different, but like I said, we were just hoping it would work.
Yeah, I was hoping to see some kind of jank deck from Jackie Chan, right? Like every single tournament I watch, it's like there's got to be this one crazy deck that he brings to the table. And I was really hoping that he wouldn't stray away from that, even though it was a team effort and he was thinking, maybe I don't want to make my team, go through the process of losing because of my stupid deck. No. He found that one counterplay, and in Last Hero Standing, it paid off and actually opened up the way for the Warlock afterwards, which didn't have to worry about that, and managed to beat the Priest afterwards, which was kind of cool.
I was sitting here waiting for Sagoth. I was waiting for Sagoth. You don't need to tell us if it's in the deck. Like, you don't need to tell us that. It hasn't been revealed. But
yes, exactly.
That's what I was waiting for.
Yes. No, it was all Jackie when it came to Egg Druid. At the last second, he was like, guys, I really think this is a good idea. And we were like, you know what, Jackie? We believe you. So.
Whatever you say, Jackie, I put my faith in you. I'm done with this.
Exactly.
You have to do that at some point. Now, your next opponent is going to be Team Liquid, who already moved on to the semifinals. You're going to be facing off against them tomorrow. We've got more matches for you guys today. We've got Luminosity, Temple Storm, I believe, coming up next, if I'm not mistaken. And then Isuba and Team Kraken, which either will happen tonight or afterwards tomorrow, depending on the scheduling and how things pan out. Either way, congratulations. FTK really deserved that win. That was a pretty well executed series overall.
Thank you very, very much.
So we'll be taking a short break, guys, before we come back for the next cast. We'll have, again, if everything goes well, Temple Storm versus LG, which, of course, opposes some of the best players in the scene against each other. So that would be one of the best ones. I mean, I think Luminosity right now is a very well-positioned team, since they rebuilt their roster. It'd be nice to see them take something big as a whole team. Zalay, Phone Tap, and Muzzy are showing up, which should give you something cool to look at. So we'll be taking a short break, guys. Stay tuned.